Chapter 1677. Living in a void, everything he did was like playing with a jigsaw puzzle. His life was like a jigsaw puzzle, and no matter how he put it together, he could not complete it. Looking for things in the void, doing other things was also like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. But unlike the former, the pieces were produced by himself bit by bit. The latter had to be searched all over the void. Throughout his life, divine life, he seemed to be constantly searching for something or being searched for by something. His mind was in a mess of emotions, sighs, and a little resentment. What was driving these faintly dissipating was the thing that was shining brightly in front of them. The sudden radiance seemed to be telling them that this thing had been perfected. Yin looked up. This was the observer space. In the distance, there were many transparent and untouchable cubes floating around in the empty space, decorating this white and empty space. But that was just the background. The important thing was the thing in front of them, a huge blue sphere encircled by 6 thin energy rings. The outermost ring was also an energy chain woven with colorful energy. The entire object was about 1,000 feet in size, and the diameter of the sphere at the core was only half that. This behemoth of 2 structures was suspended in the observer space. The group looked up at it as it circled in the observer space. The 6 independent and overlapping energy rings and energy chains were rotating at a slow speed, silent, and full of visual effects. In addition, the space clearly marked the traces of the rules, order, and energy produced when it moved, making it even more dazzling. Well, this is definitely the most perfect recirculating world core I have ever seen in my life. Jingyan looked up and could not help but laugh a few times. She reached out and patted Yin Nuashing on the shoulder. As expected of you, little bro, I thought I could make a breakthrough. After all, I have gathered so many materials. Yin Nuashing sighed when he heard this. Just as he had said earlier, he had gathered a large number of fragments to perfect this item, but in the end, he had only obtained an expected result. Sigh. Actually, this result was already very good. Greed was like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. He had only hoped that the effects would be slightly better. For example, he would be able to make this world core have a breakthrough and increase its conversion rate from 100% to 100%. Even if it was only 1%, it would be good enough. Jingyan could not help but smile bitterly as she watched him sigh. The structure of this type of world core limits itself, and there is no way to break through it. As for world cores like the realm of the gods, to be honest, in the entire void, aside from the origin heavenly god and the others, no one knows how to make it. There were people who tried to figure it out, but it was said that after 5 whole eras, they could not even figure out the basic idea. That person was very persistent. From guessing, implementing, verifying, and finally the finished product, he did it all by himself. After 4 whole eras, he was still very confident, very motivated, and said that he intended to spend his life working on world cores. When Hui heard this, he felt that it should be an inspirational story. He immediately listened attentively. And then, Jingyan paused for a moment, and her cheeks twitched slightly. Yin Nuashing saw this small detail and suddenly felt that this matter might be. Then, in the 5th era, a drunk origin heavenly god told a certain inheritor, "That child's idea is not bad, but his train of thought was wrong from the beginning." Unfortunately, he did not realize it even after 4 eras. Then, this news spread out and reached that person's ears. At that time, it was already the 5th era for him, and I heard that he immediately broke down. Jingyan sighed and could not help but look into the distance. This void, this life. Yin Nuashing and the others could not help but sigh. They more or less expected this outcome. Only we could not help but smile bitterly. He really thought that this was an inspirational story, but he did not expect that that person was also unlucky. Sometimes, if he did not work hard, he really did not know what despair was. Jingyan looked at everyone's emotional faces and suddenly grinned. Then, that person created the unprecedented recursive world core of the void. That's right, that person was originally aiming for a unique world core like the realm of the gods, but in the end, he did not manage to create one. Instead, he created a recursive world core that could be used by the entire void without any restrictions. Yin Nuashing, you're such a big turnaround. So after working hard, one could still see light in the end. Although that light had changed from the light of a nebula to the light of a galaxy, it was still light anyway. That was something that happened more than 10 epochs ago in the Great Yuan realm. I don't know much about the details either. Anyway, it was something that was left behind. That senior also felt very regretful in the end. Although his name shook the void, he was ultimately unable to reach the goal that he had in mind. Although in terms of results, the entire journey didn't end badly, Yizichin said. Jingyan spread out his hands and said, well, let's not talk about the chicken soup stories of the predecessors. Look at this thing in front of us. Yin Nuashing raised his head and recovered from his far-sighted state. You're familiar with this. I'm only responsible for creating it. I don't know the situation. You can just tell me. Well, don't worry. With the origin energy as the carrier and a unique self-perfection structure of the origin life that even the origin heavenly God could not help but praise, even if there's a problem with this thing, it will be able to push the problem back on its own. Jingyan gave him a thumbs up and grinned. Yin Nuashing shrugged and glanced at Mei Mao, who was curled up beside him and carefully staring at the sky. That girl was full of curiosity. There was a silk scarf condensed from energy tied with a bow on her white wrist. Well, he tied it, although it was probably not necessary. To be honest, the wound would have healed before he tied it. He just let out a little blood condensed from the origin of laws. That wound was not even a wound. He did not know why the girl insisted on it. Also, his clothes were twisted. It's almost complete. Little brother, take it down. Yin Nuashing recovered and waved his hand to take down the world core. The entire colossal body shrunk from 1,000 feet to the size of a human head in just 3 seconds and hovered over his hand. And then it's done. The main body is complete. Next, we just need to take it to the origin sanctum and make a few hundred similar ones. Then, the sanctum will transmit the rules of this new world core to the frontline worlds through the node so that they can adapt first. Once mass production is complete, we can replace it immediately. Jingyan nodded. A large-scale replacement of the world core. Do we really not need to find an unlucky world to test it out? Hui touched his cheek. What if? I'm just saying what if. Look, there are tens of thousands of frontline worlds in the void frontline. Don't worry. Jingyan seemed to have expected him to say that. She smiled and explained. The origin energy and the origin precepts. With these two as the carrier, they will not have a destructive effect on the order creations if they are not actively used. Moreover, the amount is just right at the upper limit of what the order worlds can use. In summary, little brother, tell us. Yin Nuashing, who was yawning, was startled. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, he could not help but roll his eyes at Jingyan. Look at me. Ahem. In summary, the reason why the origin energy and the origin precepts are not opportunities for the beings of the order worlds and could even be a disaster is that they are too powerful. The second reason is that the quantity is too great. That's right, the origin energy left behind by each origin relic is abnormally huge. It's so huge that I can't completely organize it after hundreds of millions of years. Because of this, most of the beings of order could not withstand the impact of the origin relic. However, the origin energy itself is equivalent to order, and the beings of order have an affinity with it. Hui was enlightened. Oh, so that's how it is. The dissipation rate of the origin energy and the origin precepts in the origin relic is infinitely close to 0 in the void. Unless it is destroyed, there will not be any abnormal changes. However, the pure origin energy and the precepts will also dissipate when exposed to the void and the void. This should not be difficult to understand. The influence of the carrier and the will of the energy? We asked. That's right. That's why the world core of the origin continent that you are carrying now will be the most normal form of the world core of the heavenly God of Origins world when it is completely activated. It will not be any different from before. Right now, it is still slowly awakening. You probably can't make it recover faster, can you? Jing Yun continued to explain, the last sentence directed at Yun Nuashing. Yun Nuashing shook his head. Although it is basically under my control, this is the only thing I can't do. You will never be able to wake a world core that is in a deep slumber. When it wakes up, depends entirely on its mood. Ahem, it is now resonating with the origin energy in my body, the mark of origin, and my 36 backup worlds. It is absorbing them bit by bit. The speed is so slow that it makes my hair stand on end. I estimate that it would take it to fully recover. He counted with his fingers for a moment, and then snapped his fingers. 7 eras. Everyone was speechless. Sleeping, dozing, and waking up really took a long time. After stealing some leisure time to chat for a while, Jingyan hugged the New World Core and ran out in a puff of smoke. She was probably going to the Shrine of Origins. Yun Nuashing and the others had just stepped out of the observer space when they sensed the movement from the Shrine of Origins. There was a trace of energy with the presence of Origins emanating from a node, flowing towards the frontline world in a very directional manner, before spreading through the network of nodes set up in the Void of Order. We looked at the distant Shrine of Origins and suddenly clapped his hands. By the way, does the Shrine of Origins have the ability to mass replicate world cores? It is said that it has the ability to replicate rule creations. It only needs energy to do it, but the creations must carry origin energy or the mark of origin. I heard him mention it. Yin Nuashing said, it is probably used to mass produce some of the weapons used to fight against the forces of chaos during the mythological era, such as our energy towers. We listened to the first half of the speech and was only at the level of N and O. The last sentence suddenly woke Hui up. His train of thought instantly cleared up as if he had eaten Croton. He slapped Foam on the shoulder and stunned him. Foam, hurry up and upgrade the energy towers. If we replace them with origin energy, we'll be able to upgrade the defensive line. Yin Nuashing was shocked, his face full of shock. Holy shit. Right. You also think that this idea is very... Oh, what is this? While Hui was feeling proud, Maple suddenly placed a foot-long object in his hand. It looked like a fire stick and had a circular base. The entire body was engraved with gorgeous energy runes. If this thing was enlarged to 100 feet or 100 feet, it would be very shocking. You're the one who said it. The upgraded version of the energy tower was completed while we were dealing with the world core. We also borrowed Frost's power, and with her origin of laws, many problems were solved in an instant. Yin Nuashing calmly said, I'm just surprised that you were able to think of this. Hui was speechless. Jingyan also has the new type of energy tower. In less than 2 days, there will be a considerable number of energy towers emerging from the various origin nodes. I will have to trouble you to prepare the replacement equipment, Guardian. Yin Nuashing smiled and waved her hand, walking to the side with a smug look. Hui was speechless. So you're playing me like a monkey. That's not it. I was just about to tell you, but you realized it yourself. Hui looked at the energy tower in his hand and did not know whether to laugh or cry. Their equipment had not been updated for many years, mainly because they could not find a place to update it. Energy towers were mass-produced consumables, and the consumption in ordinary battles would not be too serious. Just like when they dealt with the Void of Order, except for the battle with the distorted races, they would only need to replace a part of the crystals. When they dealt with the distorted races, they would at most use up a batch of energy towers. But when the target was the abyssal death mist, the frequency of replacement was very fast. In a battle, the average number of energy towers used up by the Celestial Realm's warriors was about 7 or 8, and that was only for ordinary battles. If it was the last time they fought the abyssal death mist, the data would not be clear. Anyway, they had arranged for a group of people to specially make energy towers, but there would still be shortages from time to time. From this, it could be seen how much resources were needed to break through the abyssal death mist. Although the energy towers were energy and nomological creations that were directly projected into the real world through the distorted laws and did not need resources from ordinary worlds. I digress. In short, what he wanted to say was that since it was a basic consumable item, those specially strengthened models could not be mass-produced. Maple, Jing Yuanji, Monarch Green, and the others all had specially strengthened energy towers that had been manually adjusted. Although they were more powerful, there was no way to mass produce them, and there was no way to upgrade the energy towers in the entire front line. Therefore, this time, they had to replace them with a new energy tower. I suddenly want to fight the abyssal death mist. We couldn't help but sigh. He looked at the little girl who was still holding Feng's hand and following him wherever he went. He couldn't help but laugh. This girl is really a lucky star. Yin Nuoxing rolled her eyes. Although this girl is a lucky star, your crow's beak can't. Lord Maple, Lord Hui, abyssal death mist energy surge. This is high alert. High alert. A large number of giant spawns are approaching, and high-tier origin spawns have appeared. No presence of Yuan Shi tier enemy detected. Everyone on alert. Gather at Node 0. All energy towers are in a charging state. The sudden burst of ear-piercing energy made everyone stunned, and a moment later, they all turned to look at a certain guardian. Are you poisonous? Yin Nuoxing stared at Hui. What? I'm a #1 troublemaker in the void, and you're the #1 prophet. Has your mouth been blessed? How can it be true just because you say it? Our new energy towers have not been installed. No, they haven't even been mass-produced. Why are you so excited? Huey's face was full of sweat, and he forced a smile. This is just a coincidence. I don't believe they can. Shut up. Yin Nuoxing slapped his face and anxiously glared at him. Shut up. You're causing trouble for me, you idiot. If you talk nonsense again, I'll use the void to bind your mouth next time. The guardian laughed until his face was full of sweat, and he shrunk his neck and shivered. Yin Nuoxing looked at him in annoyance, and then turned to look at the group of girls who were already prepared when they heard the energy alarm. She turned around abruptly, and her robe and windbreaker made a flapping sound. Let's go, it's time to fight. The enemy would not wait for them, and would not wait for them to be fully prepared before appearing. They always liked to act recklessly, and would appear anytime and anywhere to make their presence known. In any case, they were already used to it, and they had already survived for hundreds of millions of years, so it was not a big deal to hold on for a while longer. In the God Realm, in the East Sea, which had an entire ocean as its territory, countless white bubbles suddenly appeared on the surface of the sea. Accompanying the bubbles was an abnormal, scorching aura, as if the seawater was boiling. As the bubbles grew denser and denser, the area they appeared in grew larger and larger. The calm sea suddenly began to churn violently, rolling up stormy waves that blotted out the sun. Under the water, something with an extremely exaggerated brightness was rapidly approaching with a tremendous amount of energy. Boom! A water wall, tens of thousands of miles tall, rose from the ground, and the violent vibrations of the energy lifted trillions of tons of seawater into the sky. Not long after, the seawater turned into a blazing rainstorm and fell from the sky. The scene was really as if the sky and sea were reversed, and the entire space was filled with boiling hot air. The violent scene on the sea was not noticed by anyone. Firstly, this place was right in the center of the East Sea, and the onlookers would not see anything other than the life forms in the sea. Furthermore, considering that the mighty explosion of energy just now was still rolling in the sea, there was probably no life form that would dare to join in the fun. Secondly, there was a layer of energy barrier in this place. Splash. The surging sea quickly calmed down under the interference of some kind of energy, and the entire surface of the sea quickly returned to its original state. Then, a wretched figure suddenly jumped out of the sea and created a piece of ice on the surface of the sea. Then, he lay down on the ice, and from the way he was breathing, it looked like he was about to die. The body wrapped in a brown cloak was emitting an extremely high temperature, and even though he had already left the water surface, he still caused the seawater not far away to surge, but did not cause too much of a disturbance. Suddenly, a black energy appeared on the brown cloak, condensing into a cloud, and a voice suddenly sounded from it. You want to fight with the 5th rank creation? What are you thinking in your head? Do you really think you're arrogant just because you're at the peak of origin? I thought there would be no problem. Xing Lu laughed dryly, and raise his head, sitting on the ice and scratching his head. It's just that I didn't think it would cause so much of a disturbance. You're in the cradle space that someone else created for hundreds of millions of years. Do you really think every flame god is as unlucky as me, running into you when I came out for a stroll and got caught? This. Xing Lu laughed dryly and laughed with all his might. All right, I was wrong. The main thing was that he was a little impatient, just a little bit, which caused him to mess up a little. The two origin energies clashed in the Eastern Sea and almost flipped the Eastern Sea into the sky. After resting for a while to catch his breath, and when his body calmed down, Xing Lu let out a long sigh and took out the treasure map again. Looking at the markings on it, he murmured, 1, 2, 3. What is this? Hearing this, Xianlei curiously went over. He saw Xing LV lay the treasure map flat on the ice surface, waved his hand, and projected the three-dimensional shadow of the god world from it. He stared at a point on the map, and then projected his line of sight onto the three-dimensional image, locking his gaze on the bottom of the god realm. Xianlei, do you see it? There's a strange energy source there. I see it very clearly. The black energy clouds rolled, and a black thunderbolt stretched out like an arm, and then pointed at the three-dimensional image, the bottom of the huge floating island, the middle of the middle, and was silent for a moment. I don't know what it is, but it's not us. From the treasure map, it seems to be an energy source. Lord Observer said that the treasure map is the result of the God Realm's self-observation on this picture scroll constructed by the rules. There should be something there that the God Realm has sensed, and to be able to exist there, it's basically related to this world itself. I'm very curious. Xing Lu scratched his head and counted his current target, his eyes flashing. Xianlei, I'm very curious. What should we do? Curiosity not only kills cats, it can also kill a group of gods. The black clouds rolled, and Xianlei's indifferent voice came. Lord Observer says, Then, I'll ask them first. Hearing this, Xing LV laughed dryly and immediately stopped himself from following his curiosity to investigate the results of the search. He found the soul seeds of the two people. Huida, grandson, come hit me. Eat my taunt. If you continue to move energy indiscriminately and disturb the trajectory of my attack, I'll blow you up as well. There can't be two people on one mountain. Wu Shuang, go to the side. Xing Lu and Xianlei. Looks like there's a lively fight over there. Chapter 1678. The abnormal energy source at the bottom of the realm of the gods. At the front line of the void, destructive energy that was enough to annihilate countless worlds exploded in front of their eyes. Yin Nuoxing suddenly stopped moving forward, waved his hand to let the formation spread out, and blasted fiercely at the void in front of them. The energy was released randomly like seawater that was being poured out in reverse. At this moment, he was slightly stunned because of a piece of information that came from the rear. He was also slightly stunned when he heard this. While he was stunned, a shield flew out and pierced through at least 1,000 manifestations. Only then did he reply, "What's that? I don't remember anything from that place that was completely cut off." Actually, I'm not sure either. I suddenly saw it when I opened Lord Feng's treasure map today. I'm sure it definitely didn't exist many years ago. Let me think. This thing didn't exist at least 1 or 2 years ago. In the eastern sea of the realm of the gods, Xing LV squatted on the ice and looked at the three-dimensional image of the realm of the gods projected by the treasure map spread out on the ice. He stared at the flashing blue energy light at the bottom of the gigantic floating island. It seemed to be submerged in water, releasing energy traces that looked like water ripples into space. However, his soul power had already spread extremely deep into the ground. Logically speaking, he should have already crashed into the area where the ripples spread out, but he couldn't sense anything strange at all. Hui raised the guardian barrier and killed a group of manifestations. He tilted his head and looked at Yin Nuoxing across the void. He felt Hui's gaze and turned his head as well. Their eyes met. Yin Nuoxing shook her head in confusion. I'm also not sure what it is. The treasure map is a map that projects the situation of the realm of the gods itself on a scroll through the pillar of creation. It allows people other than me to understand the realm of the gods more clearly. The situation it shows is the current situation of the realm of the gods, including any abnormal laws, energy, and so on. You're not sure either? Xing LV laughed bitterly. I thought you would know. I'm very curious. Yin Nuoxing sighed. A warehouse piled with dozens of eras worth of junk. Do you know what will be in it and what will grow out of it? Hui and Xing LV both nodded to express their understanding. Then they laughed bitterly together, treating the realm of the gods as a warehouse, then this energy source. Leave it there for now. Yin Nuoxing replied, don't go there just because you're curious. That space beneath the divine realm, it's a little troublesome to open. To be honest, I'm not sure what's inside. By the way, how long until your quest is complete? At the mention of that, Xing LV's expression turned solemn. He quickly calculated the time in his mind before replying seriously. In 7 days, the last batch of creations of laws have all appeared. Apart from the 2 ranked first and second on the Divine Flames ranking, the other keys can be collected in the last 7 days. 7 days, huh? Yin Nuoxing's gaze flickered. Suddenly, a roar rang out beside his ear. He turned his head and saw a manifestation that was about 100,000 kilometers tall, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws as it charged towards him. It went against the energy of his formation like a bolt of lightning. Boom! Berserk energy surged out from the formation array that was as large as a galaxy behind it, turning the face of the gigantic manifestation and a large area of space in front of it into ashes. Yin Nuoxing let out a light sigh. Then we'll talk about it in 7 days. While you're at it, keep an eye on that energy source. This is the first time I've heard that something different has happened at the bottom of the God realm. That's right. It had been nearly 100 years since he received news that something strange had happened in the space beneath the God realm. He had been very curious about that space since the primordial era, but even though he was an observer back then, he didn't know how to enter that space. Now, he could do it, but, well, he just didn't try. All right, as you wish. Xing LV shrugged in response and ended the soul communication. He sat down on the ice and stared at the flickering specks of light inside the giant floating island. Well, I still feel my heart itching when I look at it. Although I don't know what it is, I'm still very curious. A space that only a few people know about, a space that has been silent for countless years without any activity. Now, something has suddenly happened. That's normal. I'm guessing that Lord Observer and the others are feeling the same way. It's just that there are still matters at the void front lines, so they can't deal with it immediately. When Xianlei responded, it even made a strange gurgling sound. Xing LV knew that this was a sound similar to their size. 7 days. Can you really put away the remaining 9 irascible fellows in 7 days? There are 2 of the top 10 big fellows among them. It's not too big of a problem. With the experience of fighting in their territory, I know how to deal with it. Xing LV grinned, and then his expression became a little solemn. He scratched his head in distress. It's just that the abyssal death shroud is attacking the void front lines again. I'm afraid that I can finish it in 7 days, but they can't come back in 7 days. General, leaving the front lines rashly, it doesn't sound right. It's not a problem. Xianlei circled around him. Believe in the 2 lords. Since they didn't ask you to change the time, it means that they have a way to solve the current situation in 7 days. Maybe this is just a regular battle, and it's not as tight as you think. Maybe Xing LV heard it and let out a long sigh. Moreover, they planned to come back in 7 days. It seems that the matter he was dealing with here was also very important. Let's speed up a little. 7 days, huh? Hui tilted his head and looked at the abyssal death shroud in the distance. He scratched his head and showed a troubled expression. Feng, we can't tell whether the abyssal death shroud is going to fight with us for 7 days or 7 years. TSK, why do these 2 times have to clash? Bad luck. I'm used to it. Yin Nuoxing rolled his eyes and sighed. Like I said, those bastards would never do as we wish. Heaven knows what they are thinking and why they would suddenly start fighting at this time. In any case, we are fighting now, and that is an unchanging situation. As for the 7 days, don't worry. We just have to deal with them as usual. Our new equipment is being prepared, and we just have to hold on for 5 days before we can set up a batch on the front lines. In 7 days, we would have a considerable number of usable new energy towers. From what I have deduced, the defensive line formed by the new energy towers will be difficult to break unless the enemy decided to send a squad of fledglings. That's what you say, but I'm just afraid that something might happen. We sighed worriedly. They had to return to the divine realm this time, and with both the observer and the guardian leaving, there was no telling how long they would have to deal with things there. If they weren't there, TSK, it was not that he trusted his brothers and sisters fighting on the front lines of the void. It was just that he kept feeling uneasy if he wasn't there. Moreover, he knew that Feng's feelings were not much weaker than his, but there was no helping it since they had to return. The first secret artifact, Chaos Origin Light, a legendary item ranked first in the fairy records. It was even more mysterious than Little Purple Soul, Holy Soul, Amethyst Fairy. It appeared to have made an appearance in the previous era, but we was not sure if it actually caused any ripples. Those remaining fragments were ultimately fragments, and it was difficult to pry into the truth from them. All he could do was speculate. Chaos Origin Light was a very important trump card in Feng's plan. It was rumored that it had a little connection with his element of death. He did not think much of it first, but as their understanding of the element of death and the power of divine death deepened, he now felt that the two items should not be related. One was a special creation of laws that was born in the realm of the gods and was equivalent to the direct creation of the heavenly god of origin. It should be a creation of laws. The other was an energy that was mysteriously born in the void after the heavenly god of origin's fall, and there were still many mysteries that could not be understood, the element of death. The only connection between the two was that they were indirectly related to the heavenly god of origin. When the time comes, we might have to ask Jingyan to go with us. My understanding of the first secret artifact is all based on the perspective of the observer. He was someone who existed in the previous era, so he might know more about it than I do. Yin Nuoxing suddenly said, well, in order to squeeze some time for us to return to the realm of the gods in peace, we have to work a little harder these 7 days. Either we beat them until they retreat, or we'll kick them back. Following Feng's shout was the sight of billions of energy torrents streaking across the void. The rumble of destruction and the scene of countless energy explosions left both sides rather stunned, and the battlefield froze. Hui smiled bitterly and shook his head. It was his usual style to use violence to persuade others to retreat. All right. Violence it is. Then let's use a little more force. This time, the Abyssal Death Shroud was attacking the Void front line on a normal scale, and the scale used was just a little more than normal. The most advanced spawns that appeared were merely advanced origins, and there were no scenes of fledglings coming out to fight. It should be as they had guessed, a normal battle among normal. The Void front line was the most normal bustle, the kind where there would be dozens of battles in 100 years, with each battle lasting from 1 month to 2 years. As for the rest time, there was no standard, and it all depended on their mood. They could stop for 2 days or half a month if they wanted to. Just like this time, the Death Shroud had turned around and attacked just a few days after their attack ended, as if it was revenge. Either way, everyone was used to it. If the Death Shroud were ready to stir up trouble at any moment, they could rush to the front line with a brick in hand to fight them. None of them would relax. Having steeled his heart to drive the Abyssal Death Shroud back to their lair in 7 days, Yin Nuoxing did not take charge of the overall situation this time. It did not make much of a difference whether he was in command or not in a battle of this magnitude. He only needed to launch a clearing attack at the Void front line through the Origin node every half an hour, and then go on a killing spree within the node they were guarding. Nothingness, Order of Origin. Nothingness, boundless chaos. Those two energies were different, but they weren't a mixture. Instead, they were two independent energy shockwaves. 2 rings of energy exploded at the same time, and anything within the affected area would not be able to survive. The order energy within the area was like a tidal wave, and all the death shrouds in the abyss were pushed back by at least 1,000,000 miles. However, they would not retreat just because of the sudden heavy losses. As long as there was no order to retreat, these death shrouds would only continue to charge forward even if they had been specially trained to command. The next energy clearing will be in half an hour. First and second echelons, switch out and let the hot-blooded newbies lie down for a while. Prepare the energy tower arrays. Just focus on those unlucky bastards at the front. The new batch of energy towers have arrived. I say, can't you guys use them sparingly? This is a regular battle, and building an energy tower isn't something that can be easily made. No way. Stop complaining. Every bit of effort you put in is beyond your imagination. Wait a minute, boys. Do you see those black things? Aim at them and hit them hard. The situation in the soul communication was still the same as before. Even though it was just a normal battle, everyone was still tensed up. Although there would be one or two frivolous words in the conversation, he was already used to it. He raised his head and looked ahead. Suddenly, he realized that the power of order had become very dense. With a wave of his hand, the order that he had given countless times was once again sent out. Construct a temporary territory of order. Let the power of the node spread out from here. With that, he breathed a sigh of relief and turned to Yunwashing. Maple, are you okay? Half an hour of energy clearing at the front line is still too much for you. The situation is normal. Nothing serious. Maple's voice was still flat. He had not taken a breath even after a few days of continuous outbursts. The flow of the power of order and chaos is still normal. The way the two communicate with the void is normal. Before the void is sealed by a higher power, my power is almost limitless, so there's no problem. Well, my spirit is a little exhausted, but it's not a problem. I'll be able to recover after taking a breath. Hui smiled bitterly. His answer had already solidified. He had said similar words many times and had also heard them many times. Yun Nuashing asked, "How's the situation at the front line?" Fortunately, the abyssal death mist is not too fierce this time. We've made ample preparations. With enough energy towers, we can continue fighting at this intensity. It's not a problem to fight until the end of time. However, most of the recruits are exhausted. They still can't get used to it so quickly. Plus, they're not strong enough, so they've been adjusted to the backup echelon. As for the casualties, well, it's not much. The burden on the spiritual temple is very low, and those who died are all recruits. After this loss, they'll probably grow stronger the next time they go to the front line. Huey's expression changed slightly, but it only lasted for a moment. There was a spiritual temple at every node in the void front line, which was the spiritual temple in the realm of the gods. However, this was not the realm of the gods, so they could only borrow the rules and order of the void. The different construction conditions made the spiritual temple here a little different from the one in the realm of the gods. The limitations were greater, and the resurrection speed was slower. The similarity was that every time a life was reborn, a small part of the sins of the world would accumulate in the spiritual temple. It would be difficult for the void to remove it automatically. It could only remove a part of it, and the part that was difficult to remove was dealt with by a certain person. Yes, it was the person who was slaughtering in front of him, although he said it was not a big problem. Well, who knows? He basically said it was not a big problem if it was not a big problem. The spiritual temple was an important facility to ensure the survival of the void frontline. It could ensure that the fallen order warriors could be resurrected after 2 or 3 days and continue to fight. Moreover, he could not find a better way to replace it in such a short time, so he could only acquiesce. However, this situation changed after the Origin Temple joined. The Origin Temple seemed to be able to remove the sins of the world through it, so he did not have to worry about a certain person accumulating too much sins. The spiritual temple will not be full in a regular battle, so there's no need to worry about this. It's about time. Let's talk about it later. Yunwashing took a deep breath. The aura of order and chaos rolled out from her body at the same time. With her body as the dividing line, 2 types of energy burst out. She held the Nether Void sword tightly with two types of energy and raised it high. Lord Maple, the abyssal death mist is, a frenzied shriek of energy abruptly spread across the void. A large number of energy barriers of various sizes suddenly appeared on the battlefield, all of them automatically released at certain times. Everyone was used to being startled by the sudden appearance of energy barriers, and in the next second, they hugged their heads and crouched in the void. The two vast energies rolled together like a storm, sweeping across the entire void battlefield. The barriers of various sizes were like pebbles in a storm, rolling in the wind and waves. The people inside were also rolling around. Those were the new recruits, while the veterans who had been familiar with them for hundreds of millions of years all stood in the void with their arms crossed, unmoved by the wind and waves, and were then sent flying by the barriers of the new recruits. Well, this was a common occurrence. Those who hit others and those who were hit were all. Yinhuasheng looked up. What did you just say? It's fine. That abnormal part of the abyssal death mist is gone. There doesn't seem to be anything else. Yinhuasheng grunted and pulled out the nether void sword and waved it forward. Billions of magic circles all gathered energy, waiting for the abyssal death mist to appear. We looked at about 1/10 of the barriers floating around and could not help but sigh. Looks like we have to let the new recruits get used to the sudden burst of friendly firepower. We can't let them float around like a ball every time Maple opens the door. It's not worth it if they hit our own people. There's no helping it. It's the young brother's power after all. It's not that easy to get used to it. Didn't the veterans use their bodies to withstand it a few hundred times before they barely got used to it? Everyone was lying on the barriers, trembling at first. Jingyun's voice suddenly rang with laughter. We should be glad that the young brother hasn't used Origin of Chaos at full power. That would really be unstoppable, even with the energy barriers. That's true. You're done over there? There are 2 batches of usable new energy towers, just that. Well, according to the young brother, there's no rush to use them this time. That's why I just finished installing them. The Temple of Origin is still making the next batch of energy towers. By the way, the World Core is mostly ready. I just finished dealing with it over there, and it's going well. Jingyun's voice suddenly became serious. It's almost time. We're going to the realm of gods, right? In the distance, dark clouds loomed over the horizon. Scarlet lightning flashed from time to time, as if it was about to rain. Just as countless black raindrops appeared, the billions of magic circles that had been waiting for a long time resonated and poured out endless energy, sending the abyssal death mist tumbling. The power of order surged like a tidal wave, and the battlefield that had been quiet for less than a minute became lively again. Hui looked at the flashing energy flames before him and breathed a sigh of relief. It's almost time. We just have to wait for news from Xinglu. By the way, do you know anything about the top secret item in the realm of gods? What's that? Why don't you call it something else? The primordial light of chaos. And then Jingyun fell silent. There was a sudden, deathly silence in the soul communication. The quieter it was, the more Hui felt that something was wrong. Goosebumps had already appeared all over his body, and he was about to advise Maple not to mess around before he heard anything. It's really an ancient thing. So, you're going back to the realm of gods for that thing? Jingyun's voice was heard again after a few minutes. Let me think. Is it your idea again? You don't even have to think about it. Hui laughed bitterly. It doesn't sound like anything normal. How could it be my idea? I don't know what Maple's idea is, and I can't say it out loud, so I came to you in advance. What is it? The Divine Order of the Guardians didn't tell me what it is either. It's just a ray of light. Jingyun's voice was filled with emotion. It's a ray of light related to the primordial god and the others, and a ray of light related to the concept bodies of chaos. Hui gulped. So, was that the origin of the name? Was it related to Maple's element of annihilation? To put it simply, Jingyun paused for a moment, and then said in a low voice, it's a ray of light that the primordial god and the others collected and stored in the realm of gods. When the great primordial realm was born, that ray of light that created primordial chaos and primordial light. Chapter 1679. God said, "Let there be light." Oh no, that was the wrong script. When the great primordial realm first opened, it was a moment of absolute chaos. The chaos here did not refer to the order of chaos, but the state of chaos itself. In this world, other than the origin heavenly God, well, and the chaos concept body, no other life would know what happened at that moment. Although it was possible to see the moment when the great primordial realm first opened from the moment the source world was born, and the scene was similar, the degree of restoration was probably less than 10%. Whether or not a ray of light left behind from that era could really be called light was another matter altogether. However, it might really look like a ray of light. The origin heavenly God had hidden something from such an ancient era in the world of the gods. This was something that had never been heard of before. Neither the world of the gods nor the guardians of the world of the gods had left behind any information regarding this matter. Not even the slightest clue was left behind. It was even more thorough than the disappearance of the origin heavenly God and the others. Although it might be because Maple knew, but the guardian clergy did not know. Who knows? Compared to that, he was more curious about what Maple was going to do with this ray of light. About that, Jing Yin turned to look at Yin Nuoxing, who was inspecting the new energy tower, and whispered to Hui, "Brother should be trying to use the primordial light of origin to complete the next step of the evolution of the primordial chaos. Since he is using this thing, I'm afraid he has already reached the last step of evolution. Even if he is not, he might be close to the end." The end. Huey's eyes flickered. The primordial chaos has only evolved once or twice, and he is already at the end. The purpose is too strong and too clear, so he did not take any probing path. From the very beginning of the evolution, he went straight to the end without any twists and turns in the process. Jingyan nodded slightly. So, he is almost at the end. What will happen after the evolution is complete? Jingyan's expression was a little stiff. Under Huey's gaze, she turned her head with a little sweat. "I don't understand. The path you're taking is too. I can't deduce what you'll become in the end. Even whether you can maintain your current form is a problem." That's enough. He was about to become something completely inhuman. The more he changed, the more his body became unclear. It wasn't that he couldn't understand. Just as Jing Yin had said, she had watched Maple walk step by step towards the end point of complete chaos. Every step he took, every time he got closer, Maple would become more unclear. There was still an endless amount of energy rumbling in the void. The void kept appearing in front of their eyes, and then it closed with a loud bang. 10 minutes ago, after clearing out the area for the last time, they retreated back to the node. The warriors from the world of order were fighting against the death mist of the abyss in the void. Meanwhile, they were preparing to return to the backlands to retrieve the most important fragment. The installation of the Origin Energy Tower has been completed. The new type of energy tower can resonate better with the origin of order, increasing the efficiency of energy transfer by 3 to 4 times. Its body is also tougher, and the energy overload time is also increased by about 10 times. Yin Nuoxing personally placed a new energy tower on the node. Looking up at the tower that was 100 feet in size and engraved with colorful energy runes, she nodded. The effect is better than expected. Just like the initial calculation, one new energy tower can replace a dozen original energy towers. With the Origin Sanctum providing sufficient energy, and with the original energy tower, even if we are not at the front lines, as long as the enemy doesn't send out a few fledglings of the primeval tier, there won't be any accidents. Even if they do, there won't be much of a problem. Jingyan stepped forward and said, "Our people are all ready. We have made an appointment to leave 7 days ago, and they have also been preparing for 7 days. As long as it is not the real primeval god of the beginning who comes out to make trouble, they can defeat a mere fledgling." Although that's true, Yin Nuoxing let out a long sigh, shook her head, and changed the topic. She turned to Jing Yuanji and said, "When we are not here, I will leave the front lines to you. As long as I am here, the front lines will not fall," Jing Yuanji said in a serious tone. Jing Yuanji, said in a very serious tone. She nodded solemnly to Sir Feng and whispered, "Sir Feng, be careful." Sea grinned at Yin Nuashing. "It's been a long time since I returned to the God Realm. I almost can't remember what it was like when I left. I have heard of this before. Apparently, there hasn't been much change. After hundreds of millions of years, the most obvious change is the replacement of generations. Some of the new forces at the front lines are from the God Realm's new generation, and they are scattered all over the front lines. However, there aren't many of them." Yin Nuashing said. She and Blue Phoenix were just following him back to the front lines to take a look. It didn't matter if the two of them stayed at the front lines. Yuan Kong, on the other hand, was planning to stay at the front lines. She seemed to be doing something strange with Qing Yu. Yin Nuashing only hoped that he wouldn't find out that the two girls were up to something by the time he returned. The large-scale void teleportation gates placed in the various node cities were exactly the same as the one in the God Realm. Aside from a few special locations that didn't require void coordinates to teleport between nodes, all other locations required void coordinates. The God Realm just so happened to be one of those special locations, so there was no need for void coordinates. There was also no need for two divine rolls to locate the coordinates. When I see this void teleportation gate, my legs feel a little weak. Yao Guang couldn't help but shrink his head when he saw the enormous void teleportation gate. Everyone smiled bitterly. She was thinking about how Jade had gotten lost the moment she came to the front lines. Who knew when this unlucky girl would be able to correct her bad sense of direction? Speaking of which, it was a little too strong for her to get lost using a void teleportation gate. She probably spent her talent points on unnecessary skills. All right, there's no need to send me off. If everything goes well, I'll be back in a few days. Yin Nuashing raised her head to look at the void teleportation gate where the intense battle was still going on. The Origin Energy Tower had already displayed its might on the battlefield. The energy torrent that was filled with weak Origin energy was continuously harvesting the abyssal death mist and manifestations. Even though they weren't on the battlefield, the battle didn't seem to be going downhill at all. When we're not around, be careful. Pay attention to your safety. Yao Guang nodded. He raised his hand and waved at Yin Nuashing. Have a safe journey. Yin Nuashing nodded. She turned around and walked towards the void teleportation gate. Hui, Jing Yun, see you, and Feng Qing Wang followed beside her. Following a flash of bright white light, the noisy front lines and the countless energy explosions disappeared in an instant. Everything became quiet in their senses. Let's make some adjustments and end the teleportation in the realm of the gods. Hui waved his hand and used the power of laws to make some adjustments. After that, he let out a long sigh. It's really quiet. It's been a long time since it's been this quiet. In the past, even after the end of a battle, there would be many sounds because of various alarms. The sound of the abyssal death mist activity would also be transmitted to the front lines along with the disturbance of the laws. Yin Nuashing narrowed her eyes. Aside from opening the first secret artifact, we also have to go to the bottom of the realm of the gods to take a look. Time is of the essence. Jing Yun's eyes flashed. Suddenly, she said, "Little brother, you should need more time. A few days won't be enough. I'm not sure about the first secret artifact situation. A few days is the best-case scenario. If it really doesn't work, I can sacrifice an energy world and buy some time. I should be able to squeeze out 5 or 6 days." Siyu was slightly shocked. Sacrificing an entire special energy world can only squeeze out 5 or 6 days. This is the case if the target of the interference is beyond common sense. The laws and order of the world are too large. Yin Nuashing nodded. Of course, it would be better if everything goes well. But, well, I'm used to things that don't go well. Jing Yin smiled bitterly. That's natural, but I'm talking about the time after that. You should need a lot of time to deal with the primordial light of chaos and evolve it. Yin Nuashing was slightly stunned. She tilted her head and looked at Jing Yin. Seeing that Jing Yin was prepared, she could not help but tilt her head as well. What, you already guessed it? Well, although I didn't plan to hide it from you, I didn't expect to say it so early. Yin Nuoxing breathed a sigh of relief. I don't know if it will go well. Maybe I can only pray a little. Pray that everything goes well. If it doesn't, I don't know what will happen. As for the time it takes for the primordial chaos to evolve, that's not a problem. We just have to squeeze some time in the void front line and let it evolve bit by bit. As for the result, I can't say for sure. Let's see how it goes. A few minutes of conversation passed. The white light before them flashed again. A moment later, gravity, air, familiar energy, order, and laws surged into their bodies. Their feet also landed firmly on flat ground. They had arrived at the realm of the gods. The few of them waited for the light to fade before they looked up. The darkness had receded, and the blue sky, white clouds, and many familiar auras appeared before their eyes. You guys came so quickly. The voice behind them made Yin Nuoxing and the others turn around. Then they were all stunned. In front of them was a humanoid figure about 1.78 meters tall. Its whole body was charred carbon. Only a pair of eyes and a row of white teeth were recognizable. They could tell that the humanoid figure in front of them was a person and not a walking piece of coal. This appearance is very, very impressive. We looked at it for a long time. His cheeks twitched, and he laughed dryly as he said that. Xing LV smiled bitterly and shrugged. He shook his head and barely revealed his handsome face. His white hair was shaved into an afro, and he looked even funnier than when he was charred just now. 2 minutes before you guys came back, I just finished off the last god of flames. Xing LV suddenly burped as he spoke, and a black smoke ring came out of his mouth. Everyone, ahem, it's no big deal. I'm ready here. You guys just came back from the front line. Do you need a rest? Xing LV waved his hand vigorously and smiled awkwardly. Yin Nuoxing clenched her fists and nodded. There's no need to rest. Let's start now. She was still swift and decisive. Just as Xing LV was about to respond, a colorful energy barrier suddenly appeared from Yin Nuoxing's body. It spread out for thousands of miles in an instant and was hidden between heaven and earth. Space switch. Draw this world into a formation. The blue sky and white clouds that he had just caught a glimpse of faded away in an instant. Bit by bit, it was occupied by the colors of pure white. The space in his line of sight was like a painting that had been splashed with a bucket of white dye. Other than the white and the colorful colors, nothing else could be seen. After a moment, his line of sight suddenly flashed. The scenery of heaven and earth reappeared. The mountains and rivers in the distance were still there, but the sky and the land in the distance had been covered by a layer of colorful barrier. The space outside could not be seen. With this body as the key and the rules as the eyes, a colorful energy beam burst out from Yin Nuoxing's body and shot up into the sky. The layer of the barrier that limited heaven and earth protruded high. Majestic energy was gathering from the void, from all parts of the god's realm. However, there were no traces of all the energy. There were only slight signs of gathering, and when the signs appeared, they would disappear in an instant. The energy passed through the conceptual layer of the rules and was transmitted to this space that was cut apart by the observer space. This guy is really anxious. Hui grinned and scratched his head. He shrugged helplessly at everyone. Golden divine energy also rose from his body. He lightly stomped his feet on the ground, and a circle of golden energy exploded on the ground. In an instant, it spread to the furthest part of the space that was covered by the barrier, with this body as the key and the order as the array. The huge movement caused by the resonance of two priesthoods should have been huge, but it was all limited to this corner by the observer space. The colorful and golden energy beam turned into a solid crystal and pierced into the conceptual layer of the rules. As soon as that space responded, CU and the others trembled. The movement was exactly the same as when the second secret weapon space opened. That huge movement should have caused a huge change in the god's realm, but it was limited to this space. All the strange phenomena were gathered here, and there was no way to spread out. I suddenly remembered the movement when I opened the second secret weapon space. Xing LV scratched his head and could not help but laugh dryly. Then he sighed sadly. At that time, with this space, it probably would not have caused so much trouble later. Unfortunately, you are not a second priesthood, so you do not have the power to control this space. Xian Lei's voice echoed in his heart, which made him smile even more bitterly. He shook his head. Now is not the time to think about that. Second priesthood. Jing Yun waved her hand to block the storm in front of her. She looked at the little brother and Hui, who had turned into the core of light in front of her. Her eyes flashed, and she could not stop muttering. Second priesthood. Second priesthood, a special position that did not exist in our time. This movement, the energy breath that is completely equal to that of the god's realm. Ah, I think I have thought of something. What? Feng Qingwang looked at him and asked in a low and nervous voice. A hot storm blew over and made Jing Yun turn her eyes. She saw Xing LV floating in the air. Colorful flames and lightning appeared on his body. The blazing heat spread in this space. I will tell you later. Don't run around. This hidden space hidden in the conceptual layer of the rules has been covered in dust for dozens of years. When it is opened again, the movement will be huge. Flames and lightning, accompanied by infinite power of the rules, fell from the sky. The bursting flames and lightning completely drowned the world. However, no matter how the sea of flames and lightning raged, they could not stop the energy of the two crystals from spewing out. Boom! Boom! There was a loud sound of tremors and shaking. At that moment, it was as if the entire space was pressed into the void. Jing Yun and the other two were still standing on the ground when the violent tremors threw them into the air. Siyu and Feng Qingwang could not help but cry out in shock. They quickly adjusted their bodies and landed on the ground. After the sudden tremors, the entire space was in a violent aftershock. The surging energy had dissipated. Countless pitch-black cracks that led to the conceptual layer of the rules appeared in the space that was replaced by the observer space. The chaotic power of the rules and order poured out from the cracks. Mysterious runes of energy appeared out of thin air, circling in the space filled with cracks. A very familiar energy flowed out from those runes. It is the origin energy. The seal left behind by the origin heavenly god is floating from the conceptual layer of the rules. It is almost out. Be careful, don't touch those runes. As soon as Jing Yun's voice trailed off, more runes of origin energy appeared in the space one after another. They were so dense that they almost filled up the entire space. The ancient aura was so ancient that it was as if time would flow to the end and the void would be silent forever. It was a period of time that was so far away that it could not be described. It was so far away that there were cracks in space and time. Phone. Don't be distracted. Yin Nuoxing suddenly woke up. She suddenly reached out and pressed her eyes. What is that? What? Hui tilted his head and saw the strange expression on Feng Qingwang's face. He could not help but be startled. What did you see from the observer's perspective just now? I didn't see anything strange on my side. I'm not sure. Let's not talk about this first. Yin Nuoxing shook her head and quickly stabilized the output of the rules and order power. She looked back at Xing LV. Can you still hold on? Oh, I'm fine. Probably fine. Xing LV quickly raised his thumb and responded subconsciously. After a moment, he laughed dryly. But it might not be so good after a while. How long will it take for this space to open? Yin Nuoxing waved her hand and threw out a chain of order to wrap around Xing LV's left hand. Majestic energy flowed along the chain into the latter's body. The door hasn't even appeared yet. How can you open it? Xing LV, this might be the most difficult door to open in history. If he had to open it alone, even if 10 of him were to be squeezed dry, he probably would not even be able to see the door. The modeled space was filled with countless pitch-black cracks that led to the concept level of the rules. The colorful energy barrier suddenly changed. The colors on it changed strangely. It became as if it was dyed with a layer of gilded brilliance. Dozens of colors were flowing rapidly on it. It was as if they had walked into an energy passage and were rushing forward along the passage. The energy runes floating in the space suddenly condensed into circles and revolved around an invisible core. More energy runes emerged and quickly merged into the circles after they appeared. The flow of time and space. Jingyun's eyes flashed. We are going to that space, and we're moving rapidly in both time and space. We are not letting the door appear in front of us, but we're going to find the door. Brother, have you studied where the space of the first secret artifact is? This. Yin Nuoxing was stunned. He raised his head and looked at the rapidly surging space. His cheeks twitched. I thought it was in the concept layer of the rules. Now it seems that it's not that simple. Jingyun smiled bitterly. If the guy who opened the door did not know, then there was nothing she could do. Where's the time flowing? Feng Qinghuang's eyes flashed. She stared at the space, but with her knowledge, she could not analyze anything in this space. She could only ask Jingyun. Is moving backward rapidly. Jingyun looked ahead. The origin energy and the origin law have single-handedly solidified time. If I'm not wrong, we should be heading toward the time when the first secret artifact was formed. Isn't that something that happened dozens of years ago? Sie looked up in shock. Won't it take years to rewind? Everyone, while they were thinking about what would happen at the end, what was this girl thinking? Although it was indeed a very realistic question, Jingyun smiled bitterly and shook her head. The time rewind here is based on the rules. Theoretically speaking, the speed is almost infinite. Well, the actual speed may be limited to where brother and the others are. At that time, they're guiding us to that space. Also, when we enter this space where time is flowing backward, the entire space to us should be completely solidified. We have escaped from the sea of time and are going against the flow. However, the time in the real realm and the void may still be moving forward, or, well, it may also be solidified to us. Fortunately, we are opening the door in the observer space, which is confined to a space. If we were to open the door directly in the realm of the gods without any cover, this slightly hidden explanation made CU curious. What would happen? Well, the world light in the realm of the gods would collapse instantly because it could not handle the time displacement in the rules. It would be gone with a bang. More seriously, the entire void would be in extreme disorder until the area affected is large enough to withstand the abnormality. Only then would the effect stop spreading. Xing LV shuddered violently. He smiled bitterly with sweat all over his forehead. Fortunately, I did not go for the first secret artifact. I only opened the second secret artifact. We thought for a moment and said, you should be glad that the first and second flaming ghosts are gone. Otherwise, you might be queuing up on the path of reincarnation. You can't even open the door with your small body. I guess so. Chapter 1680. The golden brilliance was accompanied by a tide of energy that surged and danced on the barrier that was shaping the space. The overflowing origin energy made the already fragmented space tremble. Runes that contained infinite energy accelerated the speed at which they floated up from the conceptual level and turned into a sky full of stars that filled the entire space. The rings formed by the origin runes were constantly changing positions, and the huge sphere in the center was constantly releasing bright light. The origin energy was bursting out like a geyser, and nearly 70% of the energy overflowing in the space was released by that sphere. The flow of time has exceeded the time that I know. The current time might be the 19th era, no, the 9th era, or even earlier. Jingwan half squatted on the ground to prevent the origin runes that suddenly streaked past and left a dent on her face. She felt the flow of time in the observer dimension, and her gaze became more and more serious. Do we really have to jump back to the moment when the grand primordial realm first opened? Hui turned around and was about to reply when an origin rune suddenly streaked past his ear. The energy and the sound made his ears itch. He quickly squatted on the ground. Let's not talk about time. Do they have to hide that light in such a deep place? This dimension has exceeded my knowledge. Every inch of this dimension contains things that I can't analyze. I can't see it here either. Yin Nuashing waved his hand and swatted away the runes that were flying toward his face. He then replied, "It's all made from the laws of origin and the power of origin. This space is no longer the observer space that I'm familiar with. It has been replaced by a higher level of power into another space that we cannot understand. If it's something that exists in the divine realm, it can only be that space." Huey's cheeks twitched, and he laughed bitterly. The bottom of the realm of the gods? The most mysterious space in the entire realm of the gods was that strange place. Although it was within the scope of the second divine duty's supervision, the two of them had never set foot in that mysterious space, so they couldn't imagine what kind of place it was. That place! Hui was startled when he opened his mouth. "Phone, be careful." "Huh?" Yin Nuashing looked ahead, but before he could react, a huge shadow suddenly fell from the sky. He hurriedly looked up and realized what was going on. The origin runes that had condensed into rings were arranged into an all shape that was large at the top and small at the bottom. At this moment, it fell from the sky without any warning. "Damn it, back off. Get down." Seeing the origin all that was tens of thousands of feet high crashing down, Xing Lu screamed and quickly fell to the ground to hold up an energy barrier. The sound of the all hitting the ground caused several echoes in this strange dimension. The origin energy exploded from the ground, where the all came into contact with the ground, turning into pieces of condensed crystals that flew in all directions. Yin Nuashing had just jumped a distance of the ground by the all, and pieces of the origin crystals that flew in all directions. Boom! Oh my god! I can't watch anymore. Hui grinned and covered his eyes. That heavy impact, that movement, that tragedy. Hiss! It really made people not dare to look. Even if Phone was thick-skinned, he would probably break his defense if he was hit head-on. Boom! 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 Jingyan carefully pulled her head out of the ground and glanced around. The ground was so tragic that it looked like it had been plowed by the young man with a formation. She was silent for a long time, but she didn't feel anything unusual. Then she whispered, Is it over? Maybe. Hui trembled as he got up from the ground. He hurriedly looked around and asked, Where's Feng? Feng Qingwang hurriedly stood up from the ground, turned into a beam of light, and dashed out 1,000 feet. She stopped in front of a pile of broken rocks and waved her hand, pushing away the broken rocks in front of her, revealing a 20 to 30 feet large cube made from the original energy. She was just looking at it when that unlucky guy was pressed against the ground by this brick. She carefully touched the origin cube and found that there was no energy backlash. Then she pushed it away. As expected, she saw Yun Nuashing, who had been pressed to the ground and created a human-shaped pit. She was seeing stars, and her eyes were rolling like mosquito coils. She looked like she was dying, as if she would die in the next second. She's here. She seems to be fine. She just fainted. Feng Qingwang hurriedly helped the unlucky observer up. Then she waved to the others. Hui, Jingyun, and the others quickly rushed over. Hui looked for a while and waved to the others to reassure them. Well, her defense is broken. It's not a big problem. She should wake up after lying down for a while. About 10 minutes later, Yun Nuashing bounced up from the ground. She looked up at the silent and solidified golden sky. Her eyes were dull for a while before she recovered. She sighed and murmured, I just saw the reincarnation road crack open. Hui smiled bitterly. He was almost smashed into the reincarnation road by a brick. Clang. Yin Nuashing rubbed her forehead and stood up with a face full of doubt. She tilted her head and was about to ask about the situation. Suddenly, there was a muffled sound. No matter how she heard it, it sounded like something was kicked hard and was about to fly out. It was the sound of a door being kicked. What followed was a series of tinkling sounds of glass falling on the metal floor. What's going on now? Xing LV was frightened by the sudden sound and quickly turned to look at the place where the sound came from. It was the all that had fallen deep into the ground, the ring that was pieced together to form a platform on the ground, and the core-like sphere. Its outer shell made of origin runes suddenly peeled off layer by layer and fell to the ground, turning into powder and then dissipating with the wind. When the core shell was completely opened, everyone quickly looked at it. Then they were stunned. A door made of gold. Although there were only two 10-feet-tall pillars on the left and right to separate the door, there was a whirlpool in the middle of the door that was emitting a fluorescent blue light. It contained a lot of different kinds of energy, millions of kinds of energy, tens of millions of kinds of power of rules, and at least 4 kinds of aura of order. Yin Nuashing was stunned after seeing the nature of the door. I'm afraid I'll turn into ashes in an instant when I step in, right? This. Hui laughed dryly. He stared at the door and patted Feng's shoulder. Feng, you have to think twice. It's a matter of probability. Jing Yun smiled bitterly. The aura of the portal was so chaotic that it was difficult to recognize. It was the most refreshing thing she had ever seen in her life. Only God knew what would happen if she stepped in. Why don't we just forget it? Actually, little brother, if you want to let the primordial chaos evolve, you don't have to. Go, of course I have to go. Yin Nuashing took a deep breath. The door is already open. If I stop now, won't it make me look like a coward? He grinned and turned around to smile at them. Anyway, the primordial chaos did not kill me. This is also the primordial chaos. At most, it's just a strengthened version. Since it's related to them, there must be a solution. Wandering among the billions of stars, looking for the only one in this world. How do you know it won't work if you don't try? Jingyan was speechless. She smiled bitterly and shook her head. All right. I knew you would say that. There's nothing to say. May the primordial god protect you. Feng Ling, Yin Nuashing nodded. Just as she was about to walk forward, she suddenly paused and turned to Hui. By the way, I don't know how long this trip will take. The flow of this dimension is also hard to predict. You guys can go back and see what's going on. You don't have to wait for me here. While you're at it, check if there's anything unusual happening at the bottom of the divine realm. Also, we won't be back for long. I'm worried that the void frontline will go out of control without us. If I don't come out in 4 or 5 days, you guys can go to the void frontline first. Huey's eyes widened. No, if we stay here, we can at least be external help. Even if there's a chance, we can still save the situation. You? Maple's eyes were filled with determination, and Radiant's gaze made him swallow back his words. Radiant's cheeks flushed red, and after staring at Maple for 2 minutes, he finally gave in. He slapped his face, lowered his head, and shook his head with a bitter smile. All right. As you wish, Lord Observer. As you wish. We will go to the bottom of the celestial realm and wait for you outside to cheer you on. Is that okay? Yin Nuashing nodded. Suddenly, she chuckled. Then let me say something very shameless. If I go first, the world of order will definitely not collapse before you come back. But after you come back, I'll definitely push you into the death abyss mist and give you a good beating. Hui bared his teeth at Yin Nuashing and waved his hand. All right. Hurry up and go. Don't put on a pitiful act here. Yin Nuashing shrugged. She flung her windbreaker and turned around. She stepped onto the platform made of the origin energy. The door in front of her was releasing a golden light. It turned into clouds and sunlight, illuminating the space around it. Even the platform was reflecting golden light. She quickly walked to the portal made of countless energy. She took a deep breath and looked back at Hui, See you, and Feng Qingwang. She nodded slightly and did not stay for long. She stepped forward. Buzz, as he disappeared behind the door. The light in this space froze after a slight buzzing sound of energy. The light of the barrier, the light of the portal. Everything froze at this moment. Little brother's soul seed has cut off all connections. Jingyan touched her own soul and shook her head at Hui and the others. The space over there is a place that we can't reach at all. This time, there's really no connection at all. We can't even see his current situation. I guessed it. After all, this is a space made by the origin god. Hui sighed, looking at the frozen light. Only the whirlpool of the portal was still spinning. He shook his head helplessly. There's no other way. We can only pray that he can solve the matter inside and come out safely. See, he was a little nervous after Yin Nuashing's soul seed lost its connection. She asked Jing Yun, Brother Jing, based on your understanding of the things in the secret artifact. Little star, although I said that I understand, I have never faced the primordial light of chaos head-on. Jingyan scratched her head and turned to look at the portal. She deliberated and said, "In our era, the primordial light of chaos had appeared before. It didn't appear as if it was obtained by someone. It should have appeared through some method, or something happened at that time that made it manifest in the realm of the gods. After that, it was observed. After all, I don't live in the realm of the gods. I only heard about it from the news that came from the void." How should I put it? The origin heavenly god and the others must have left this thing in the realm of the gods for some reason. Perhaps it's like some kind of test. Perhaps they're allowing others to come in contact with it. This is one possibility, and I think it's normal. As for the other possibility, Jingyan suddenly paused and smiled bitterly. The other possibility might be too terrifying. Don't stop halfway. We scratch his head hard. Jingyan covered her face. What if? I'm saying what if? What if the origin god and the others couldn't handle this light and had no choice but to store it in the conceptual layer of the realm of the gods and leave a seal or something behind? As everyone knows, things like seals will always loosen. That's why the primordial light of chaos manifested in the realm of the gods. Perhaps the seal loosened and it rushed out to illuminate the world or something. We and the others. If that's really the case, then they're really in trouble. Originally, the name Primordial Light of Chaos was given by us beings of order. It was given by the beings who lived in the realm of the gods and witnessed the descent of this light. The origin god and the others seem to have tacitly agreed to it. But I'm not sure if they said anything about it or explained anything. I don't know if they really didn't say anything. Jingyan sighed in distress. Suddenly, she turned her head and was stunned. There's a teleportation gate over there. Hui and the others were stunned for a moment. They also turned their heads and saw a teleportation gate near the edge of the barrier. It was a circular gate with a radius of 3 meters like a mirror. It emitted a stable, spatial energy and an aura that they were familiar with. It was the aura of the realm of the gods. It should be the teleportation gate that leads to the outside world. Hui looked at the newly appeared teleportation gate and then looked at the place where Maple disappeared. He sighed and waved his hand. Let Maple handle this himself. We can't help. Let's go to another place first. Jingyan nodded. She looked at the gilded teleportation gate again and sighed. She turned around and headed towards the realm of the gods. Xing LV also looked at it a few more times before he followed. Girls, let's go. We turned around and called out to the 2 girls. Then he froze. He saw Feng Qing Wang kneeling on one knee with her hands clasped together as if she was praying. Siyu was looking at her from the side and muttering words that he didn't understand at all. Seeing how nervous the 2 girls were, Hui smiled bitterly and shook his head. He walked forward and said softly, "Trust him. Maple will be fine." And, just as he hoped, we should go and take care of another matter. Don't worry and leave this place to him. And man, I know. Feng Qing Wang nodded. She slowly stood up and stared at the gate with her pink eyes. Just pray for him. The little star who bears the burden of something we can't reach. At least, send him a prayer. A layer of crimson light flickered over her body, appearing and dispersing as if by accident. Hui was a little surprised. Suddenly, he thought of something. Feng Qing Wang was a phoenix, one of the 4 gods of heaven and earth in the god realm. Her life force was so high that even the Empyrean god of origin could not compare to it. She wished Feng Qing Wang a blessing and said, "Maybe there will be unexpected results." Feng Qing Wang was a little surprised. She turned around and looked at the Lord Protector. "What did you just say?" "I said, with your blessing, Maple won't be casually taking a meal in there." Hui grinned. Let's go. Although it looks like he went on a journey alone, he still has the 2 girls and the saint's soul, Amethyst Fairy in his soul. I keep thinking that we are overthinking things. Maybe he didn't encounter anything as dangerous as we thought. Feng Qing Wang and Siyu looked at each other and shrugged helplessly. Then, they followed Hui and left the place. The bottom of the realm of the gods was a place that no one had ever set foot in, whether in this era or the previous one. It was one of the top 3 most mysterious places in the realm of the gods. Well, only those who knew about it would know. Those who didn't wouldn't even know that it was a space and not just a pile of rocks. Well, the realm of the gods is a flat world that is like a huge floating island. At first, no one knew that there was a space at the bottom of the island. Later on, for some reason, yes, I remember it very clearly. It was for some reason that the concept of the bottom of the realm of the gods spread among the greater gods. In the pitch-black space, dots of bright golden light shone in the darkness. The endless darkness was empty and silent. However, this wasn't the void. It was a very special space in the realm of the gods. Huey's protector space was a bridge connecting the space. They would go through this space to reach their next destination. As for where it was, Hui himself couldn't tell. Well, he was just trying to get close to the space. The method was provided by Maple. He was just an unlucky experimenter. See, you couldn't help but ask, wasn't it said by the heavenly god of origin? Well, it doesn't seem to be the case. If you really want to say it, it seems that some unlucky guy bumped into that space when he was teleporting. Teleportation. The feeling of physical objects colliding with space. That's what it means. In short, it bumped into something. Even if it couldn't see anything in front of it, even if it couldn't see anything, it knew that there was a space in front of it. Jingyan stroked her chin and said as she recalled, but this theory hasn't been verified. I don't know if it really happened or if someone made it up. But someone must have used some unknown method to find out that there is a completely unexplored space below. The fact is, the process of discovery isn't too important. Didn't any of the inheritors ask the heavenly god of origin? We couldn't help but ask. After hearing so many things from Jingyan, he had a feeling that the beings of order would always have a way to get information from the heavenly god of origin. That's true. Jingyan put on a serious face. Then, she said in a serious tone, I can't say that, well, that's what the heavenly god of origin and the others said. Everyone, if she wasn't keeping them in suspense, then there must be something wrong with this place. Just as you think, there might be something important about the realm of gods hidden in this space. The heavenly god of origin and the others only said those 5 words. They didn't warn us or say anything else. Of course, it's possible that they didn't pass through, or we just forgot about it. Jingyan spread her hands in an exaggerated manner. After a while, she regained her composure and coughed dryly. Well, that's why when I heard that you wanted to go to the bottom of the realm of gods, I wanted to persuade you. But you said that there was something unusual there, so I thought that it might be better to go and take a look. In our time, no one has heard of anything happening at the bottom of the realm of gods, even after 20 or 30 years. Oh, that's right. Speaking of which, I have to mention the observer and guardian. Jingyan suddenly coughed dryly and turned her head to look at Hui. She said in all seriousness, like I said earlier, I've never heard of anything happening at the bottom of the god realm. Where do you think I got this information from? Hui stroked his chin. Well, it's not that anyone has seen it. And for what you said, the observer and guardian did not exist in the mythological era. So what's going on? Did the heavenly god of origin say that? Jingyan shook her head. This matter is indeed related to the heavenly god of origin, but only indirectly. She took a deep breath and said faintly, in our time, the realm core of the realm of gods could be communicated directly. Do you understand now? We shuddered violently. What the hell? Don't tell me that the realm of gods was greatly affected by the void turbulence, and even the realm core was affected. And in this time and age, none of us know that the realm core could communicate because there's something wrong with it. And this influence and problem has caused the realm core to be unable to communicate. It can't even communicate with the beings of the realm of gods, and it can't even observe itself. So, the observer and guardian have popped up to replace it in self-examination, right? Everyone was taken aback. Aren't you saying that a little too quickly? Jingyan was also stunned. Although what you've said is a little messy, I think that's pretty much the case. Let's correct it. You and the lad have probably replaced the realm core that can no longer self-examine itself to adjust itself. In other words, Jingyan looked at Hui with a serious expression. You two have been chosen by the realm core of the realm of gods to become agents of the realm of gods. Chapter 1681. The two divine roles of observer and guardian were perhaps the most wondrous things in the Void of Order. No world had ever given birth to a life that was so close to the world itself, as if they were one, even if they were fused with the world core of the world. The latter would at most become a true observer and agent, but Hui and the little brother were more like some kind of activity of the world itself compared to the agents. In other words, their activity was equivalent to the activity of the divine realm, and their bodies were the world. That's right, it was as if the world was created by them, and it was an existence that was categorized as their own clones. However, with the premise that the realm of the gods was created by the primordial god, this explanation obviously did not make sense. For hundreds of millions of years, he did not understand what kind of existence the two of them were in the realm of the gods. It was only when he saw the little brother and Hui Jun working together to open up that he felt a strange, obscure aura that did not belong to life. It was so obscure that if he had not sensed it and understood it, he would not have been able to detect it. That's more or less what's going on. I've also conversed with the realm core of the gods before, so I had some guesses in this regard. It's just that I've only just confirmed it. Jingyan looked at the dumbfounded Hui Jun and waved her hand. All right, calm down. It's not a big deal. All right, I think it's quite amazing. We took a deep breath. Well, this is completely beyond my expectations. I have never thought about this. Feng Qing Wang asked curiously, how is the consciousness of the god realm right now? About that, I have to correct you. It's not the consciousness of the realm of the gods. That can't be considered a consciousness. Jingyan shook her head and explained, the world core of the realm of the gods. Although I said that it can talk, it's actually just a very simple, single-threaded, rigid object of communication that only has the ability to answer questions. It doesn't have its own intelligence, thoughts, ability to think, and so on. An information storage box with a question and answer function. We try to speak up as well, and Jingyan agreed. That's it. It's still far from consciousness. In fact, the realm of the gods is so powerful, entangled with billions of laws and countless energies. The chances of it giving birth to self-consciousness is countless times lower than the chances of any other world in the void. If that probability were to be written on the ground, just writing 0 would be enough to dig a hole through the realm of the gods and poke a hole in the void. So that's how it is. Feng Qing Wang stared at the Lord Protector thoughtfully for a while. Then she asked tentatively, so Little Star and Lord Hui came to the realm of the gods directly from the damaged part of the realm core? I'm not sure about that. Jingyan shook her head and looked at Hui Jun. Hui Jun, you should know that there must be a process before and after you become a protector. Or maybe you were born a protector. Hui Jun scratched his head, and his expression was a little strange. I'm not sure either. As far as I'm concerned, I'm sure that I was born from someone else's mother. I'm very sure that I'm the son of my mother and father. Even if it's a very, 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 very long memory, I will never forget it. I've only heard about it from someone else. There's nothing like that in the realm of the gods. So you couldn't help but exclaim. Those twisted little topics are, Hui Jun coughed. My family is just a very ordinary family. We can't even be considered a family. My family of 3 is happy and healthy, and I have no memory of any bumps and bruises. It's just a very ordinary family. When I can remember, I was just an ordinary little brat. I was just an ordinary child going through basic training like any other child. I was just an ordinary child trying to sense the world. I lived an ordinary life for a dozen years and grew up an ordinary life. I wasn't outstanding, but I wasn't ordinary either. What happened after that? Siyu asked curiously. She was still holding a small notebook in her hand and was writing furiously. After that, my parents were just 2 ordinary people. They didn't cultivate much. During the 40th era, it was only tens of millions of years since the beginning of the world. Now that I think about it, it wasn't long after the void upheaval, and the environment in the void of order wasn't very good. The laws and order were all recovering from serious injuries. Even the realm of the gods was affected by it. Without the support of the laws, a normal life would have a short lifespan, with less than 100 years to live. Because of that, my parents passed away early. After that, I drifted alone in the realm of the gods. Hui raised his head and recalled. After a while, he grinned. It was a very long time ago. What happened after that? What happened after that? Hui Gang was still smiling, but now he looked a little confused. He frowned. After that, I was lost for a period of time. It was as if I suddenly fell asleep. When I woke up again, it was just a blink of an eye for my consciousness. It had already passed. Almost 1 billion years, maybe 1 billion, maybe 1 billion, maybe just a few 100 million years. I can't remember clearly. Not only was I lost for a period of time, but even after I woke up, my memories of that period of time were very blurry. I don't even remember what I was doing at that time. Was your memory tampered with by the laws? Or was it blurred by the laws of the realm of the gods? Jingyan stroked her chin and thought. Are there any more clues? What happened after that period of time suddenly awakened? There was no similar process of awakening. Hui Gang shook his head and said in a deep voice, when I woke up one day, I was already a guardian. That feeling was like you were holding a gemstone that was worth an entire world in your hand. You knew the value of this thing, but you never cared about it. You never looked into it. Or you could say that you didn't know it all. You just subconsciously knew that this thing might be very valuable. Then, after millions of years had passed, you suddenly woke up one day and said, this thing is so valuable. I have to do something about it. That's probably how it felt. It was like waking up from a dream. I didn't know how many years I had lost. When I looked back, I was completely awake. So, I went back to look for traces of my existence. I found the grave of my parents. Although it was tattered and buried under a mountain, and the energy protection that they had left behind dissipated like smoke, it was a trace that I left behind with my own hands. It was something that I would never forget. This was also the reason why I believe that I was not directly born from nothingness. If that's the case, it's possible that the World Core had already found you before you were even born. That lost period of time might have been when it was modifying your laws and the various laws. You were either conscious at the time and had forgotten everything after the modification was complete, or you were in a daze from the very beginning and were even acting on your own without consciousness. Jingyan scratched her cheek, and her eyes flashed. Seeing Hui Jun's thoughtful look, she said, I'm just saying a possibility. It might not be the case. Hui scratched his head. I think that might be the case. There's probably no better explanation, unless we go back to the beginning to see what was going on with me. Speaking of which, I didn't have the title of protector in the beginning. I only knew that I had entered a strange state, but I didn't delve into it. I was still a nobody in the celestial realm, and it was only until one day that I realized that I had become a household name. Part of the reason was that I had wandered around the celestial realm and left many traces behind. At that time, everything was still in the recovery phase, and there were many outsiders in the celestial realm. Many dangerous races wandered to our doorstep and wreaked havoc. The recovery phase was also a period of chaos and turmoil. The entire celestial realm was in chaos, and there were countless large and small battles. There were also internal strife, but most of them were external invasions. At that time, I had inexplicably led the charge. Now that I think about it, it was probably due to the influence of the second divine title. We continued to recall. But to really become a household name today, it should have started from the 45th era. Well, that's another story of the past. That's probably the effect of the disturbance of the heart of the world itself, allowing this world to recognize your existence, even if the beings here only know you but do not know or understand you. Jingyan explained, and because you're very close to the laws of the realm of the gods, the beings in the realm of the gods will feel the breath of this world on you and subconsciously associate you with this world. So you suddenly stopped writing and looked up in astonishment. By the way, where's Little Star? Hui was also startled at the mention of a certain observer. He scratched his head. I've never heard Maple talk about himself. It was the 42nd era when I met him. The first time we met was when we brushed shoulders in the sea of people. The connection between our two divine titles made us pass by in a hurry, and then he slipped away. He came and went in a hurry, and the next time we met was 100 years later. It's the same period as just mentioned. Although it's already the 42nd era, using the information we know now to look back at the situation at that time, it was because the heavenly god of origin had fallen and the void turbulence had swept away everything in the world, leaving behind a scene of devastation. Although 2 eras had passed since the beginning of the void, and countless worlds had been born in the void, many things had not recovered, and the laws at that time were still relatively weak. It wasn't until the end of the 42nd era, when everything stabilized, that I felt that the recovery period had ended. We coughed dryly. I saw Maple again when we were fending off an external enemy, the Southern Ice Realm. Millions of icebergs were dyed scarlet, dark blue, and ink black in a sea of blood. The icebergs, glaciers, and icy plains were dyed in a tragic scene as if a god had been beheaded. Billions of beings were buried there, and I saw that guy on top of the mountain of corpses and the sea of blood. Huey's cheeks twitched as he spoke, and he smiled embarrassedly. You didn't see that scene with your own eyes. It was really too shocking. My team and I were all stunned. Jing Yun, Xing LV, and the 2 girls were calm. They had seen more violent scenes, such as the scene of one person sweeping half of the void, or the scene of the heavenly god of origin fully unleashing the power of origin. Those are all basic moves. But now, listening to what an observer had experienced, they felt that it was different. Then what happened? Feng Qingwang whispered. Then Huey's cheeks twitched again, and he looked like he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. That guy bathed in the blood of tens of thousands of people and dyed himself as if he had been poured out of a dye house. He glanced at us and scared off 80% of our team. Just when I was inspired by the connection between the 2 priesthoods and was about to say something to him, well, he was exhausted and fainted. Everyone was speechless. A standard ending, basic move. Nothing surprising. Sit down. Then I carried Maple back. You can imagine what happened after that. We have stumbled all the way to where we are today. We shrugged and sighed. It's been a long time. Oh, by the way, other than the influence of the heart of the world itself, Maple's title as the Observer is probably partly because he was influenced by me. But he always hides at the back, so no one knows him. I think I saw something. Hui suddenly shouted and turned his attention. The few of them quickly looked ahead. It was a pitch-black space, and they couldn't see anything. But that's right, they instinctively felt that there was a space in front of them. There should be something in front of them. That was what their senses and intuition told them, even though their eyes said that they really couldn't see anything. Wait a minute. Let me try to switch the mode of energy output. Okay, I can see it. Hui waved his hand, and in the space where they were, the energy barrier was dyed with a tangible golden color. Then, it turned into ripples that spread into the dark space. Soon, they saw that when the golden ripples touched the front, they did not pass through space, void, or objects as usual. Instead, there was a scene where the golden ripples bounced back after hitting something, and the ripples spread along the outline of that something. There was something in front of them that blocked the spread of the Guardian's power. Xing LV, take out the treasure map. I have roughly spread out our spatial power. We should be able to find our location from the treasure map. Let's take a look. Xing LV quickly took out the treasure map and projected the body of the realm of the gods in this dark space. In the middle and lower part of the huge island, there was a flashing red dot, and a little further in front of the red dot, there was another light dot. It was slightly blue and was emitting energy traces in all directions. However, none of the 5 present felt any trace of energy spreading. Look, this thing is definitely emitting energy, but I can't feel it at all. I can't feel it either. Jingyan shook her head and looked at Hui. Seeing that he was responding to the same situation, she walked up to the front of the barrier and pressed a few times. There is indeed a law preserved here. The frozen law is completely solidified. What's going on? Such a structured law should only appear in a world of light that has been destroyed in an instant by an unimaginable destructive law, but still retained its general appearance. So what's going on? Hearing this, Huey's eyebrows twitched. Could it be that this is some deadly space? Why don't we just go back? I can't say for sure. Jingyan shook her head. Most of my understanding of the realm of the gods comes from listening to others. My own understanding is limited, but I can be sure that the bottom of the realm of the gods is a rather special space. Its structure alone is already like that. It either retains something that has been destroyed for God knows how many years, or it is a space that has been destroyed in the first place, leaving behind some kind of remnant. But it doesn't matter. If it really is a deadly space, the origin heavenly God would have forbidden everyone from exploring it when someone touched it. Since they didn't say anything, we felt that something was wrong. But they didn't say that we could do whatever we want here. Well, that's true. Jingyan laughed dryly and coughed lightly. Something unknown has happened inside. I personally suggest that we go in and investigate. What if it's something left behind by the origin heavenly God and the others, right? There was no way they could refuse this suggestion. How do we go in? Poke it twice and see. You are the guardian, the world core of the realm of the gods, the executor. If you want, you should have a way to enter this space that originally belonged to the realm of the gods. Do I have to rely on my intuition? Hui smiled bitterly. This journey was not reliable at all. He smiled bitterly for a while, then walked to the front and gently pressed his hand on the place where the barrier and the space on the other side touched. A cold feeling came from his palm, as if he was touching a rock. There was also a strange presence coming from his palm. It was a presence that he could not be more familiar with. The hollow echoes left behind by the destruction of the world, the last words of the void. He tried hard to recall Maple's expression when he dealt with those strange things, the presence, and the situation. Then he slowly closed his eyes, took a deep breath, imitated, and then began to use all kinds of energy, laws, order, and other forces to stimulate, changing the energy output mode, and even used a hidden force to give it a punch. In the end, he could not help but mutter in his heart. Apart from his tense expression and tightly closed eyes, which showed that he was in the same state as the chattering observer, everything else was on a completely different tune. And the result was, half a day passed, and there was no movement at all, so you could not help but yawn. Hui laughed dryly and looked at the others helplessly. This doesn't seem to work. Why don't we wait for Maple to come over? I can't get together with him sometimes, and he's more familiar with this kind of thing. Jingyan scratched her head in distress. Little brother is still suffering over there. Wait for him to come out. Speaking of which, the World Core divided the two executors into different levels of authority. I've only heard about it from you guys, so I don't know much about it. It's very obvious in many things. Maple might not know what I know, and Maple might not understand what I can understand. We all thought it was the difference between the two divine roles, but now it seems... We scratched his cheek. Maybe it's because the laws divided by the World Core are different. So you thought for a while, and decided to come up with an idea. Why don't you knock it? Little Star also swings his hand angrily when he can't solve something. Maybe he'll just go away? TSK, we're not that violent maniac. You'll never know how much power and how much strength Maple's casual slap contains. Hui grinned as he took out the Guardian's sword and gestured in front of him. Watch carefully. I'll just poke it like this. If it really opens the door, I'll do a handstand. Ding! Ka! The Guardian's sword flowed like water into the theoretically indestructible space. Then there was a series of strange clanking sounds. Finally, there was the sound of a door being unlocked. Then, a circle of energy made of golden light suddenly appeared in front of everyone. They felt the aura of a guardian from the door. Hui was sweating profusely as he pointed at the door in front of him. Bless mouth, cheating food and drink, Sia muttered softly. The number one prophet in the void. Hui. Jingyun sighed and patted him on the shoulder. Hui Jun, it's normal for little brother to ask you talk less. When you plan to do a handstand, let us know. We'll come and take a look. Hui wanted to cry, but had no tears. Xing LV didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He shook his head and reminded them. Anyway, let's go in first. Hui sighed faintly. He nodded with a depressed face and walked towards the energy door made of light. The group followed behind him, a space overflowing with light. He thought it would be like this. The moment he stepped into the portal, he was already mentally prepared to face all abnormal situations. When he opened his eyes, what he saw in front of him was a scene that he didn't know how to describe. He seemed to be walking on clouds, but the clouds around him were very thin. At the end of the platform, made of white jade, there was a long flight of stairs suspended in the air that led to another, more spacious platform. This was the only thing that he was standing on, but it wasn't the main point of this space. Yin Nuoxing raised his head. The golden sea of clouds rolled in the sky without any wind. The clouds rolled and rolled like the tides. Rays of extremely dazzling golden light broke through the sea of clouds and fell from the golden clouds in the sky. They shone on the white sea of clouds that he was standing on, staining it with golden spots and sprinkling fine golden energy particles within a radius of 10,000 miles. The brilliance in the sky set off the thin, aurora-like gauze that floated in the space where the sea of clouds intersected. It was sacred and dazzling. He lifted his feet and slowly walked forward. He came to the platform on the second level. As far as the eye could see, the white and golden sea of clouds moved without any wind. However, there seemed to be wind. It was only a weak bit. It couldn't even blow his clothes and hair. It wasn't enough to cause the sea of clouds to roll so violently. The golden light suddenly fell from the sky in front of him. It broke through the clouds and created a huge hole in the two seas of clouds. The two seas of clouds rolled even more violently with the appearance of this dazzling golden light. The wind also blew with its appearance. The light was so dazzling that it was completely difficult to look at it directly. Yin Nuoxing tilted his head and squinted his eyes. After a while, he slowly opened his eyes. This is the ray of light that appeared when the Great Origin Realm was first formed. It contains the deepest mysteries of the Great Origin Realm and the truth that no ordinary life form can understand. An ethereal voice that was accompanied by a slight tremble of energy sounded beside him. It made his breathing stagnate. He turned his head abruptly. Her figure appeared here silently and gave him a fright. However, he wasn't surprised. It was only natural that she should appear here. The truth. Yin Nuoxing murmured these two words. He raised his head and was about to ask her what the truth was. However, she suddenly turned her head and looked behind him. She looked behind him and asked, "Are you ready?" Yin Nuoxing turned his head and looked behind him. He didn't see anything. Suddenly, he understood. It was just a projection. It was a projection that she had left behind. Chapter 1682. Billions of rays of light, accompanied by endless golden light and auroras, filled the entire space of the sea of clouds. They flowed and surged in the two seas of clouds. Countless rays of light gathered and weaved into a strange golden ocean, which was even more magnificent than the Sea of Time. The scattered golden light particles were blown to every corner of the space by the wind of energy. The ribbons condensed from the aurora were as smooth as silk. Yin Nuoxing's line of sight always judged that it was something that existed physically. It fluttered in the endless sea of clouds, as if looking at the clouds riding the wind in front of his eyes. The aurora that was a distance away would dissipate into golden energy particles and continue to ride the wind. New aurora ribbons would form around the dazzling golden light and the nearest and largest dazzling golden light in front of him. He wasn't sure if there was a reason for these phenomena to exist. In any case, 90% of the things in this space were incomprehensible to him. And there was Yin Nuoxing tilted his head and looked at the figure 2 or 3 meters away. It was a vast expanse of whiteness, and he could not see the face, only a vague outline, a tall figure, and fluttering long hair. Just these were enough for him to judge that it was her. It was a projection left behind in the past. She was talking to the person who appeared beside her with her spiritual power so that he could roughly understand. But there were two problems here. There was not a single ghost beside her. Probably the projection back then did not manage to capture the person who was supposed to be here, causing her to talk to the air like a lunatic, and in his eyes, it was as if she was haunted. The second problem was that other than saying something at the beginning and saying something to the ray of light after a while, they did not say anything else. About half an hour had passed, and they just stared at the golden morning sun in a daze. This made him stunned, and he did not know what to do at this moment. Should he continue to wait for them to say that there might be more conversations, or should he jump directly into the big light column in front of him? The sky was filled with clouds and golden light. That wisp of light of the beginning that seemed to exist physically penetrated the golden sea of clouds and the white sea of clouds, pushing the two seas of clouds far away. It also seemed to be gathering a storm here. The atmosphere was trembling, and the sound of the air trembling could be heard. Vaguely, there seemed to be a low chanting that sounded vaguely with the sound of the wind, making it difficult to distinguish. Initial light. A voice suddenly sounded in his ears. Although he could directly understand it through spiritual communication, he did not know why it sounded in his ears. However, this was not a problem. Yin Nuoxing quickly perked up her ears and listened attentively. It has been 20 eras, and it seems that there are no more movements. I'm thinking that it's about time to close this space and ignore it. Continue to move. The possibility of re-evolution is quite low. It's lower than the probability of the void's lower limit. It can be confirmed that it has completely solidified itself in this state. It's useless to continue to observe it. Yin Nuoxing was listening attentively. Suddenly, there was another voice that she could not tell whether it was a male or a female voice. It should be the voice of the person who was talking to her. If that's the case, let's close it and let that part of history be silent here forever. How's the situation over there? It's completely silent. There won't be any movements for at least 10 eras. It will take longer for the beings of the world of order to explore that place and come into contact with them. For the time being, we just need to leave some of our attention. She shook her body slightly and tilted her head to look at the other places in the sea of clouds. The void here has become an unexpected situation. Is this the result of our efforts? Or is it just a mark of failure? Actually, it doesn't matter. It's meaningless to talk about success or failure here. We can only do this. The result is what we have seen. No matter what, order finally has a chance to take a breather. Moreover, the fact that the void has become like this proves that our previous idea was not wrong. It's just that, forget it. Why am I saying this? We've already agreed not to talk about that time. Let's go. It's time to close this space. Let's stay here forever under the flow of time. She nodded slightly and looked at it silently for a while. Then, she turned around and walked towards the platform below and disappeared. Yin Nuoxing walked to the place where she stood just now and looked in the direction where she left. He scratched his head and said, "That's why I said that you have to lock the door when you close it. Look at your door." Well, he was just complaining. During the mythological era, the primordial light of chaos had also appeared. They couldn't have locked the door without realizing it at that time, right? Could it be that they had already locked the door? Also, he felt that what they said just now was not right. 20 eras had passed. So, did this scene happen in the 20th era of the Yuan realm? It's all in the clouds. Yin Nuoxing let out a long sigh and scratched his head. He turned around and looked at the huge pillar of light that stood in the sea of clouds behind him. It was much bigger than he expected. He was silent for a moment. Forget it. There's nothing to hesitate about. As for the result, let the void decide. Yin Nuoxing took 2 steps back and took a deep breath. He opened his eyes wide and suddenly sprinted forward. He jumped off the edge of the platform and crashed into the pillar of light, leaving behind a wisp of smoke. Gulp! It was as if an ice cube had been thrown into a violent pillar of magma. With a sizzle, or perhaps without a sound, it turned into smoke and dissipated. The entire pillar of light only trembled symbolically and continued to surge without any changes. However, more than 10 rays of golden light that scattered down from the sea of clouds silently dissipated. The hole in the golden sea of clouds did not disappear. After more than 10 seconds, a pillar of light that was dark and filled with gray shadows silently appeared from the empty hole. It scattered the gray light into the gaps of the sea of clouds and corresponded with the radiance of the millions of golden auroras. The platform suspended in the sea of clouds suddenly trembled slightly. Inexplicable white clouds emerged from the space, and the golden light fell and merged with the clouds. A moment later, the clouds that emitted a faint golden light turned into white figures that appeared one after another. There were at least 100 of them. They slowly walked to the edge of the sea of clouds. Their casual and disdainful eyes seemed to contain the aura of millions of creatures. The huge, bright golden light also inadvertently slowed down under their gaze. After looking at it for a moment, they all retreated silently and turned into clouds that dissipated. However, the dissipated clouds did not disappear in the space. After hovering for a while, they gathered again and turned into 3 figures that reappeared on the platform. Is it really okay not to stop it? The slightly sturdy young man tilted his head to look at her and pointed at the light with his chin. That thing is a sealed history that nobody should know about, right? Even he might not be able to bear the information in it. It's okay. She shook her head and her voice was still calm. It has already been dealt with. The young man was stunned. After a moment, he seemed to have understood. Oh, it was at that time. After nodding in realization, the young man smiled bitterly again. But even if it has been dealt with, did you intend to leave this first light to someone? I didn't think about it. She shook her head lightly and said faintly, I'm just keeping it and looking at it. Although it has been completely solidified, there are still changes. It's here to announce itself. It wants to tell something. The young man slapped his face. Say something that I can understand. The matter of this place and the item in this place will be left for the future generations to reveal. If there is enough fate, one can naturally come to this place. If there is no fate, there is no need to worry about someone accidentally breaking into this place. That is an event that does not exist. She said faintly and seemed to take a deep breath. This space only appears in response to the person who is searching for it. The condition is very important. The first light. The girl crossed her arms and stared at the light in front of her in a daze. It's really something from a long time ago. I thought it had been annihilated along with time. I thought so too, but the young man suddenly paused and looked at her blankly. Don't tell me that this is also part of your plan. She turned to look at him and continued flatly. What happened to him is unexpected. However, there is no need to stop it. Just continue on like this. Just continue on like this. The young man smiled bitterly. This was a completely free-range mentality. He did not know if it was because she completely trusted him and thought that he could face anything and solve it by himself. Or perhaps she did not have any intention of lending a helping hand from the beginning and was just observing as an interesting thing. Well, that's what she meant. She could not really say that she did not care at all, could she? I care. Of course I care. She seemed to understand what the young man was thinking. She quickly tilted her head and glanced at him before turning her gaze away. Unlike all of you have taught countless people. However, there's only one person in this world who can bear my power. Even if it is to respond to this tiny void miracle probability, I will still pay attention. However, he does not need any more changes. He is already very good as he is. I only need to give him a hand when he is truly in despair, if that day comes. Having said that, she turned and walked down the platform, slowly dissipating into clouds and vanishing into the sea of clouds. The young man and the girl looked at each other and shrugged helplessly. I don't know if that little bro is lucky or unlucky. Look at what kind of path he has chosen. All along the way, he has been stumbling and crawling. The young man sighed. If it was anyone else, it would be very difficult to trigger everything here one after another, let alone anything else. Yet, each time, he would trigger this and that in a tiny probability. If it was me, I would be depressed at any moment. The girl tilted her head and looked at him before turning to leave. The path he has chosen, the void probability, is a lie in the first place. When the girl also disappeared, the young man looked at the ray of light again and grinned. He also followed the two and left the place. The empty platform slowly disappeared into the depths of the sea of clouds as they left. It was covered by a wisp of smoke and dispersed. Then, the entire sea of clouds violently surged. Rays of golden light and rays of gray light cut through the sea of clouds and fell into the space between the gaps, dyeing the sea of clouds with two colors. The world fell into darkness. A wisp of flickering golden light hung high in the sky like a morning star, turning into a guide. It was like a lighthouse, but it was so far away that one could only look up and never approach it. When he opened his eyes again, his body had already turned into a wisp of light in the darkness, losing its form and blending into the darkness. Everything here had deviated from his understanding. He thought that he would fall into a world cast by light, and all he could see was a golden brilliance. The brilliance was so dazzling that it could burn a big hole in the void and burn him into ashes or something. He never thought that it would be such a scene. The darkness here is chaos, and the light is the origin. Yin Nuashing looked up at the golden light and shook his head. In the end, the name was not given by the god of origin and the others who understood the first light. It was obviously impossible to dig out any useful information from that name, so there was no need to hold on to it. However, what he saw in front of him was very similar to such a scene. Endless gray chaos, as if he was in the void of chaos. If he fell into the chaos and turned around to look, that light spot must be the light of order. Before he could sort out his thoughts and figure out how to take action, suddenly, countless fragments made of information rushed into his mind, causing Yun Nuashing's consciousness to freeze for a moment. The information contained in the fragments revealed to him the vast scene of another era, the war between order and chaos. He was just a bystander, watching everything that happened here from a very distant place. There was no way for him to get close enough to see any details. War? No, it did not look like the war he knew, but it was definitely a war. It was just that it was more pure, and the purer it was, the more brutal, unreasonable, and the most direct. It was the purest period of order and chaos, without any representation or replacement. The war between them was just like their current form. It was just the purest energy that contained the primeval order. It had yet to take shape, yet to be called a world or a void. On this primeval battlefield, they clashed with the most brutal method before being annihilated, reborn, and clashing until they tore each other into pieces, or until they were defeated and turned into a puff of dust. What he saw in his daze was the vast scene of the primeval times in his cognition. Everything that happened was beyond his cognition and understanding. Do you think that what you see here is everything you know? In his daze, he seemed to hear her voice ringing in his ears. He subconsciously wanted to respond, but the golden light that resembled the morning star before his eyes suddenly expanded. Without giving him any time to respond, it engulfed the darkness and swallowed him. In an instant, his consciousness seemed to have fallen into an ocean cast by golden light, slowly sinking down. The torrent of history, the footsteps of time, wash away everything in the world and the void. You are searching for the truth that has been covered by billions of years. That is the truth that can overturn the void. If you want to uncover it, you must have the determination to be washed away and devoured by endless time and chaos. Offer your will, your soul, and crush everything in this world. Yin Nuashing slowly closed her eyes. I have long been aware. No, all of this doesn't matter anymore. The golden torrent, accompanied by the aura of time that was thick enough to cause the void to tremble, rumbled in front of him. It was as if he was watching a star expand in front of his eyes. That extreme pressure made him feel suffocated, something he had not felt for a long time. Clearly, he could only see resplendent and dazzling light, but he felt as if his body was being dragged into the deepest abyss by the deepest and most endless darkness, just like that day when he fell into the realm of chaos. In order to not let the darkness that was deep enough to crush his origin devour his body, he risked his life to release his own light. That faint light of a firefly was the one and only light of the morning star in the darkness. Just like this moment, just like, if that's the case, then with this determination, fall into the deepest abyss and search for everything you want to know. The torrent that was like a tidal wave carried an indescribable force and washed him towards the bottom of the deep sea. As he fell bit by bit, the golden light in front of his eyes suddenly flickered and turned into surging deep darkness. Accompanied by a gray color, it gradually occupied his vision. He could no longer distinguish whether it was chaos or order, or they were the same here. If you don't want to release your despair and fear in the hustle and bustle of the origin land of the great origin realm, then reach out and touch that ray of light. Hui suddenly turned around and looked behind him. Under the gazes of the few people, he suddenly muttered that person's name, causing them to be stunned. "Little brother, what's wrong?" Jingyan also turned around and looked behind her. In the vast and endless starry sky, there were only floating huge rocks and twinkling stars. That familiar figure was nowhere to be seen. Hui rubbed his eyes and shook his head in confusion. "I don't know. I think I suddenly heard Feng's voice. But he shouldn't be here now. Even the soul seed has been completely covered." Hearing that, Xing Elvi's mouth suddenly twitched. Could something have happened to him? Hui and the other three suddenly fell silent. This was hard to say. This was really hard to say. After all that thing. But now that they had come here, even if they were worried, there seemed to be nothing they could do. What could they do? After settling the matter at the bottom of the realm of the gods, they would quickly return to the space outside, squat on the ground, and draw circles to pray for blessings. And then, nothing. Hui let out a long sigh. Suppressing the curiosity and worry in his heart, he turned around and looked ahead. In a dark, cold, and silent space, a vast galaxy, countless broken pieces of celestial bodies were casually thrown in front of them like broken pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. Streaks of chaotic energy accompanied by the aura of origin suddenly streaked across thousands of miles in the form of galactic lightning. Then, they trembled and slowly dissipated. In the distance, broken pieces that looked like half a continent were sinking into a cold nebula, destroying the process of star creation that might have existed. This was the bottom of the realm of the gods, the space with a mystery index of 10,000 stars, a vast and real galaxy, filled with endless starlight and countless fragments under the illumination of the stars. Although it was a vast galaxy, there was no life. Of course, there was only endless chaotic power of the natural order and the unknown energy that contained the aura of origin jumping around. It was too chaotic, too unstable, and did not have a stable environment to nurture life. As for why this space was like this, only God knows why. Seeing Hui turn around and walk forward, Jingyan also put away her worries and followed him. Looking at the starry sky, she said, "A destroyed starfield. No wonder it exudes such a destructive aura. Many things here are probably just the remnant shadows of a huge amount of energy and the power of laws. It doesn't seem to be just a galaxy." Hui looked into the distance and pointed to the front. "Look, that is definitely the remains of a human or a god." They craned their necks to look and saw what Hui was pointing at in the galaxy. In the cold and lingering gas, bolts of energy flashed, illuminating the things hidden in the dark and thick gas. Although it was just some hazy shadows, they could still recognize that there were some torn stars, large pieces of broken pieces, and the core left behind after the annihilation of a star, which had long become cold and had lost its power. In addition to these, there was also what looked like the remains of the roof of a palace, and walls that were thousands of miles high, like pillars and the like, as well as the remains of unknown buildings. It is indeed man-made." Jingyan scratched her head. She could tell at a glance that this thing was definitely not something that had evolved naturally. She did not know if it was something that originally existed in this cosmos, or if it was an unlucky thing that was sucked in when this cosmos was destroyed due to various reasons, such as the eruption of laws, the destruction of energy, space being torn apart, or the void collapsing. This space. Jing Yun touched a piece of the natural order of this space and held it in the palm of her hand. After looking at it for a while, she suddenly became silent. What did you see? As soon as we saw that he seemed to have some signs, he immediately threw away the pile of broken things in his mind and jumped over from a piece of meteorite fragment. What does it have to do with the realm of the gods? Jingyan shook her head. That's hard to say. Xing LV, see if you can use the treasure map here. See if you can accurately find the location of the energy source. That I've just tried. Xing LV heard and sighed. She took out the treasure map and made a gesture to open it. But after a long time, the treasure map did not open. It can't be opened. Hui saw that and went over to touch the treasure map. He also tried to open it, but gave up after a while. There's no way. The natural order that was released is locked. In other words, we are now in a state of complete isolation. There's no way for the realm of the gods to see. But that's not right. Isn't this inside the realm of the gods? Jingyun's eyes flashed. What if the realm of the gods sealed itself? Although it can see that it has such a place, it sealed itself. Either it doesn't want to see it, or it doesn't want anyone to know about it. But there's no way to stop a part of itself from coming in. Hui Jun took advantage of a loophole to come in. Something like that. Then isn't that a disaster? Hui, a sealed space of the realm of the gods. That sounded a little unbelievable. He had never heard of a world that chose to seal itself. I have a little guess, but first I have to find the energy source to verify it. Jingyan smiled and said to Hui, it might be able to help you, little brother, or even the realm of the gods. The premise is that my guess is correct. Chapter 1683. In a broken space zone, all that could be seen was the landscape of large pieces of debris. It was as if a few living planets that once had life and all kinds of decorations had been brutally torn into pieces by a force. In the process, all the decorations on the planets were thrown out and floated in space, becoming a pile of garbage that filled the space. Help to the realm of the gods? And Maple? When Hui heard this, he frowned suspiciously. Could it be something related to the origin heavenly god? Some kind of creation? Jingyan laughed bitterly. What you're saying? Isn't everything related to the realm of the gods indirectly related to the origin heavenly god? At most, it's a matter of how much. All right, that's true. Hui tilted his head and scratched his head. Then what is it? Can it give birth to a few more primeval tiers in the realm of the gods? Or can it let Maple enter the primeval tier? According to the current rules of the realm of the gods, as long as divinity is used as a medium, it can create a primeval tier. It's just a matter of time. Jingyan said, then rubbed her chin and muttered. But it's just as you said. It's just that I can't predict the end of that, little brother. In the end, this thing itself hasn't been verified to see if it's the same as what I've guessed. We have to go take a look first. About that. Xing Lu suddenly raised his hand and waved at the two. When he saw that they were looking at him, he pointed ahead. I just felt it. A small-scale release of energy, so small that it's like an illusion. It's not far from here. I was so focused on talking that I didn't feel it at all. He scratched his head so hard that it was going bald. Let's go take a look. I feel that there's hope again, but to be honest, this hope of mine, it's always too idealistic. This time, let's not talk about anything else. If we can find a way to let Maple ascend, I'll see you quickly, reminded him. Lord Hui, please don't say so much. Tisish, I did it on purpose. My mouth is blessed, isn't it? It's good to use it on the proper path. Jingyan smiled bitterly as she shook her head. She had completely placed her hopes on the faintly discernible probability. It was not incomprehensible. The destination that Xing LV pointed to was not far away. It was still within the range of this space garbage pile. It was even separated by a few huge meteorites, 1 or 2 walls, and a small area. Floating along the piles of rubble that filled the space, they flipped over half of a building debris that was tens of thousands of miles high, and then passed over half of a star that was only half solid, and finally came to a nebula. Purple and orange light split the nebula into two distinct rings. They were cold and silent, with no signs of activity. They were just a remnant of the destroyed starry sky. Their own activities had been forcibly stopped by the destructive power of the rules, and they almost no longer responded to external influences. It's here. Hui and his team entered the nebula. The misty cold cloud filled their vision. When they waved their hands, they could feel the cold air passing through their arms. The disturbed cloud would slowly return to its original position after a while. As mentioned earlier, they were almost no longer responding to external influences. It's misty. I can't see anything. I don't see anything either. Jingyan looked around and scratched her head. I don't feel any active energy within the energy sensing range. But my intuition tells me that something is here. Some mysterious things lurking in the realm of the gods. Sometimes, even if you know it's here, right beside your feet, you can only blindly search for it when you're determined not to find it. Xing LV suddenly showed an aura of vicissitudes. His face was pale as he sighed. Hui and the others were stunned. What you been through? Xing LV took a deep breath, covered half of his pale face, and smiled bitterly. He nagged as if he had been through it before. After all, you have found the creation of the rules of the realm of the gods, right? I'm used to it. Playing hide and seek with them across thousands of miles. I'll never say that I'm used to it. Hui smiled bitterly. He had forgotten about this. Xing LV had been sent back to the realm of the gods by Maple a few 100 million years ago to collect the keys that had fallen in the realm of the gods. Looking at his weary and tearless face, well, he had probably been through a lot. It was better not to poke at his sore spot. The creation of the realm of the gods is quite active. After all, it's indirectly equivalent to the creation of the god of origin. Ahem, Jingyan said while holding back her laughter. Then she coughed and turned her attention. Hui Jun, you try to take it out. Am I bait? Hui smiled bitterly and walked a few steps into the depths of the nebula. His body slowly exuded golden energy, spreading out evenly from his body and smearing every inch of space in this nebula. The specific principle was that the aura of the realm of the gods was similar. That's what it meant. Although he was acting as bait, whether the other party would make a move or not was not something he could control. Jing Yun gestured to Xing LV and the others, then circled around the huge shadow that existed in the nebula a few times. Just like the huge rock fragments and building fragments floating in the starry sky, there were also these things in this nebula. He ran over to see if he could try his luck and directly bump into that thing, but the result was very realistic. He wandered around here in loneliness. He did not know if that thing had dissipated into energy and the power of rules, and was hidden in the starry sky, making it difficult for them to find it. How is it? Did you find it? After about a quarter of an hour, Jingyan floated back to Huey's side and looked at him. The latter was still staring at the nebula that was emitting a cold light with his big eyes. He had been staring at it for a long time, but there was no movement. When he heard Si Luo's words, he suddenly raised his right hand as if he was having a stroke, startling them all. Hui was still staring at the starry sky in front of him in a daze. All kinds of strange sounds came from his mouth. No one knew what he saw in the empty starry sky, or if he did not see anything. He just suddenly raised his right hand, and then there was no movement. What is he doing? Xing LV could not help but whisper to the others. See, you had an idea. Hold your breath and prepare to catch the prey. Do you think he is a feline? Jing Yun's cheeks were slightly red. What catch? I think it's better not to disturb that thing. It might be better to lure it out naturally. Are you afraid that it will be frightened and run away, and then it will be difficult to catch it? That's right. After all, this is someone else's territory. If it really wants to hide and play hide and seek, we can't beat it. It's out. What's out? The sudden exclamation made the people who were still talking unable to come back to their senses. Xing LV also subconsciously replied. After a moment, they were all startled and quickly turned their heads. Hui Zheng, with an imposing manner, stretched out his hand and pointed at the space in front of him. That was really a majestic aura. The golden energy that was originally spreading at a uniform speed on his body was now condensing into a storm. Jing Yun and the others hurriedly threw their gazes forward. In the vast starry sky, in the center of the nebula, there was suddenly a cluster of light that condensed into a thin shadow. The surrounding starry sky suddenly condensed with its appearance, and rays of light gathered towards it. It was as if the nebula had skipped millions of years of calculation and suddenly condensed into a sun. The light released very vividly affected the starry sky that had long turned into a legacy and a past tense. The permanently solidified state was peeled off a little. As it gathered, the orange, gold, and purple nebula began to spread little by little, gradually becoming thinner and about to dissipate in the starry sky. It's really it. Jing Yun's eyes widened. She saw that the pure light condensed into a blue cluster of light. In the center of it, there was a little bit of light green, as if it was a core, like an eye that was simply looking at the starry sky, looking at them. It's finally out. Hui wiped his forehead that was soaked by the burly man and could not help but smile bitterly. This guy is very lazy. It was Maple's energy crystal. He spread it out in the palm of his hand. When he was about to raise his head to greet it, a blue light flashed in front of him. The energy crystal in the palm of his hand suddenly disappeared. He was stunned. Its reaction is too fast. They looked at the ball curiously. After it took away Yun Nuoxing's energy crystal, it held it in its mouth. It looked like it used a small part of its body to wrap it a little bit. It was like the action of a bird holding a branch. After that, it continued to circle around them slowly. He scratched his head. When he saw that it was not causing trouble, he continued. Probably because we were born in the realm of the gods, the aura on our bodies makes it feel close to us. It is also very curious. So what is it? Ahem. Jingyan coughed lightly. He wanted to hold back his laughter. The only reason he didn't do so was because he was still waiting for this guy who was trying to keep them in suspense to reveal the secret. Okay. I won't keep you in suspense. Jingyan grinned. The others had been staring at him for a few hundred times. If he kept them in suspense, Hui Jun and Xing Lu would have to roll up their sleeves. He coughed again, but didn't reveal the secret immediately. Instead, he looked at Siyu. Actually, Fengqing Wang has already told us the answer. Siyu and Fengqing Wang, huh? Hui and Xing Lu looked at each other. The two of them rolled up their sleeves and took out their weapons. Their aura surged. Hey, I really didn't keep you in suspense. Didn't I already tell you the answer? Jingyan quickly waved his hand to stop the two of them. He laughed dryly. I'm serious. Fengqing Wang has already told us the answer. Think about it again. The impact of what I said is not as great as what you think it is. Don't hit me. Don't hit me. Xing Wang, what did you just say? Hui and Xing Lu beat up the guy who was running away like a rat. He turned around and looked at Fengqing Wang. Fengqing Wang was in a daze. Maybe it was because she said it subconsciously, but she couldn't remember. She quickly looked at Siyu. The two girls looked at each other for a while. Siyu suddenly clapped her hands and shouted, "The consciousness of the realm of the gods." Correct. Ouch. Don't hit me. I'm wrong. I'm really wrong. Jingyan was still covering her head and howling like a rat, but Hui and Xing Lu were already stunned. Their hand movements stiffly stopped at the last second of beating someone, and their faces were lifeless. Intent consciousness. Hui was stunned for a moment. He waved his hand and said, Xing Lu, beat him up. I've already revealed the secret. Why do you still want to hit me? Stop. This is not fair. There are two of you. I'll ask the little brother to help me. Ouch. Cough, cough. Let me explain in detail. After a while, the guy who was beaten up coughed and crawled back. He grinned at Hui and the others and said, I did say that with the strength of the realm of the gods, the probability of this kind of law giving birth to a consciousness is very, very low. It's so low that it makes one's hair stand on end. but I did some calculations. Maybe, maybe it's because of the chaos tide and various other effects. The strength of the realm of the gods has decreased. Right now, the environment of the realm of the gods is gradually becoming stable. It's not like our era. Because of the period when the world was created, all kinds of energy and factors were always at a high peak. So, maybe we waved his hand and concluded. In short, because the strength of the realm of the gods and the void has decreased, the possibility of this world's consciousness condensing together with the realm core has increased. Right? Jingyun nodded hesitantly. That's probably the case. The few of them raised their heads and looked at the azure ball. It was still spinning in circles with all its might, leaving behind afterimages. As for the energy crystal that was held in its mouth, Hui was stunned. Huh? Where's Maple's energy crystal? Did you get rid of it? I think it was eaten by it. Jingyun's face twitched a few times. There shouldn't be any problems. The origin energy, it's still the same meaning. Plus, it's a consciousness condensed by the realm core. A newborn consciousness is very young. The chaos period has just ended not long ago. Many of the laws of the realm of the gods have just stabilized. Xinglu might have actually seen it born back then. Xinglu was stunned. He pointed at himself and asked, "So lucky? You gave birth to her in just a few days?" It was just a few days ago that all the conditions were met. Then it smoothly took shape. The actual time it took. It might have taken more than a dozen eras. It might even have been accumulating conditions since our era. It was just that at that time, there was no other way but to delay it until today. Jingyun waved her hand and said. Everyone murmured an "oh" and continued to look at the ball. Siyu's pretty face suddenly trembled. She said, "Little purple soul is also a ball. Do creatures of the realm of the gods like to be in the shape of a ball?" Jingyun smiled bitterly. That's just its initial form. This body is not clear yet. It probably doesn't even know what thing it is when it just ended its chaos period. It's already pretty good that it can move its consciousness. If I have to say, this is its current body. It's just a little different from our understanding. It'll take some time to slowly take shape. After all, it's still a child. Then what do we do now? Hui waved his hand and asked everyone to return to the first topic. He said to Jingyun, "You said that this can? Don't tell me you're planning to give this consciousness to it." Although I don't know if your expression is wrong, I don't plan to do anything destructive, Jingyun said with a serious and sacred face. This is a consciousness that was born after dozens of years. It's too late to think of a way to protect it. Then what do you plan to do? Jingyun rubbed her chin and pursed her lips for a while. Then she said, "Actually, you can think of it as the situation in our era. Although the conversation with the world core has become a different situation, and the current consciousness is obviously more young, I don't think it can understand what we're saying. Although it has some ideas, it doesn't know how to implement them." Jingyun was vexed as she thought about it for a while. Then, she mentioned her general idea to everyone. Hui was the first to understand. He said, "Oh, you want to use it to adjust the current situation of the realm of the gods. Speaking of which, the realm of the gods can be adjusted? Like I said, after the chaos tide, many things in this world were affected. I've only been in the realm of the gods for a while, and I can feel its." Jingyun paused, as if she didn't know how to describe it. She waved her hand and looked troubled. "So you had a flash of inspiration. It's being restricted? That's probably it." Jingyun nodded. "You haven't experienced the chaos tide. That was a powerful impact on the conceptual layer of the Order of the Void. Things like the world core that are directly connected to the void are very sensitive. They're even more sensitive than us and can feel the abnormal changes in the void. Therefore, they're more vulnerable to the destruction of the void. I've been inspecting the worlds that we carry around, and the worlds with the world core have all been affected to varying degrees. Damage, destructive damage. But I'm not completely sure if the world core of the realm of the gods was damaged, or if part of it was sealed by the powerful destructive law. If it's just that part of the restriction, it'll only take a little effort to open the seal. It's not as troublesome as you think. After all, so many years have passed since the chaos tide. Even if there are afterwaves, they would have evaporated long ago. The prerequisite is that it knows what to do." "That's easy," We just have to check it out. Hui waved his hand and left. Jingyan quickly pulled him back and smiled bitterly. Let's deal with this little guy first. Do you want to stumble in here again? Hui scratched his head. At this point, the ball was already tired from spinning around. Feng Qing Wang carefully poked it, but it only made the surface of its cocoon. It seemed to be exhausted. Are we going to bring it out like this? Isn't this its cradle? Cradle. The entire realm of the gods is its cradle. It's not limited to this place, but this place might be safer and more stable, so it chose to descend here. Jingyan nodded and went forward to test it. It's just born. Wrap it up in a more concentrated space of laws and bring it out. To it, the realm of the gods is where it resides. It will only take a moment to return to the conceptual layer of laws. Hui nodded and began to prepare. When he turned around, he saw, see you holding the ball on her head. The human and the ball were staring at each other. The rest is up to you, little brother. Jingyan let out a long sigh of relief when she saw Hui messing around with the ball. She couldn't help but shake her head. This was really an eye-opener. The consciousness of the realm of the gods was something that they had never thought of. Perhaps even the origin heavenly god and the others had never thought of this. Being born with the most powerful laws and structures in the world was also the most powerful shackle on this body. It was the body's fortune, and also the most ruthless restriction. To be able to break through the heavy shackles and allow the consciousness to gradually condense and finally appear here. It wasn't as simple as what he had said. It was just that they could only use simple words to describe it. Chapter 1684. The beginning of the Deyuan realm was the foundation of the birth of all the monogatari symbols. It was a framework, a cradle for all life forms. Without this premise, there would be no way to talk about the things in this world. When exactly did it happen? Perhaps the life forms in this world rarely paid attention to these things. Whether it was ordinary life forms or high-level life forms, it was too far away. Even for the life forms that were immersed in exploration all year round, it was still too far away to reach. However, there were always some existences in this world who knew about the most mysterious event that turned 0 into 1. Was that something that happened 51 years ago? The first year of the Deyuan realm's history, the beginning of the Deyuan realm's history. But was that really the case? That was nothing more than a record left behind by a predecessor. It was about the time when time took shape and could be recognized and recorded. The truth here was nothing more than a continuation of story that was completely covered up and written before time. Wasn't that right? The endless clamor in his ears had faded away at some point in time. What replaced it was silence. The silence turned into an eternal silence. He could not hear the sound of the wind, nor could he hear the sounds of things moving. He quietly opened his eyes and saw a dim starry sky that flickered with purple light, as if it was covered by a purple nebula. Countless stars hung high in the depths of the galaxy, and there were also endless stars twinkling. Yin Nuoxing subconsciously got up. His body was stained with some yellow soil, as if he was lying in a desert. Chaos and the origin. Yin Nuoxing raised his head and let out a long sigh of relief. He stared at the endless starry sky, and his emotions were extremely complicated. That was another part of history that was far, far away. It was a story that belonged to another time and space that had been covered up by time and completely sealed away by them. It did not need to be known by the new life forms in this world. It was another part of the so-called truth that he had heard when he came into contact with the light of origin of chaos. He rubbed his forehead and threw these thoughts to the back of his head. He looked around and frowned slightly. He did not know where he was at the moment. Was he in the space that was created by light, or was he in another space that stored the light of origin? Anyway, let's just walk ahead for now. Taking a deep breath, Yin Nuoxing stepped forward slowly. He seemed to have landed in a desert. It was dark all around, and there was no moonlight. The only light source seemed to be the dark and misty purple nebula in the sky, which slightly illuminated the desert. There was the shadow of a sand dune 100 meters away. Other than that, The place was very barren, and there was nothing else. It was a star deep in the nebula. As for the predecessor of this nebula, judging from the scene in front of them, there might have been a huge sun here, but it had exploded many years ago. This space was, of course, constructed. He was referring to the huge, starry sky, including the nebula he was in. He was not sure if it was left behind by that ray of light. Being in a foreign land, he was in a confused state where he did not know where he should go. Other than moving forward, there was nothing else he could do. What? You don't really think that I'm going to walk forward aimlessly, do you? Yinuashing rolled his eyes and stopped. Taking a deep breath, he waved his hand and took out the Netherruin sword and hundreds of millions of magic circles. With a boom, he pointed it at the endless starry sky. A surge of energy roared. I'm in a hurry. If you don't give me a quick answer, I'll... Hey. Calm down, calm down. As soon as the energy went berserk, a voice quickly sounded. Yinuashing turned around and let the Netherruin sword swing in a circle. He did not see anything. After a while, a cloud of white mist appeared in the space in front of him and condensed into a figure. It was a white human figure with no face and only the outline. It was a slightly strong young man. He did not know whether to laugh or cry. Why are you so impulsive, kid? Yinuashing rolled his eyes hard. Why did you make so many weird things? Can't there be more simple trust between people and less of these? He pointed at the space around them. Fancy things. The strong young man was stunned and scratched his head. What? You found out? Yinuashing kept a straight face and a serious face. Then he muttered in his heart, what did I find out? Forget it, you impatient little fellow. The young man sighed helplessly. This is the space used to store the first light. From what you know, it seems to be called the primal chaos light of origin. However, there's no need to change the name, so we did not bother. Oh, Yinuashing nodded with a straight face. Then where is the light? The young man took 2 steps forward. Yinuashing felt the former's gaze on him and said softly, You are. Yinuashing was stunned. In your body. Now that you have assimilated with it, the primal chaos has fused with the first light, as you wished, and is going through the last stage of evolution. However, the current form does not seem to be stable. You have to stay in this space for a while. This space will suppress the activity of the light. Although it seems to have been dormant for countless years, there are still some changes within it that you cannot detect. Before the assimilation is over, don't do anything rash. If you leave this place rashly, the light will explode in your soul. Yinuashing breathed a sigh of relief. Damn it, he was scared to death. He thought that the last sentence would be something like, well, actually you are the light. You have just returned. It would have scared him to death. All right. Yinuashing spread his hands and put away the magic circle and the Netherworld Ruin sword. Then I will just wait quietly for a while. The young man breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that. Yinuashing stared at him and suddenly said, Where is she? She's in a daze in that space. Yinuashing continued, Why are you guys appearing and disappearing so mysteriously? What's going on in that space? About that, it is actually related to you. The young man crossed his arms and said with a slightly solemn voice, The space we are in now is a broken world created by the sea of consciousness that you carry with you and many fragments related to us. We will manifest from time to time because you have come into contact with fragments related to us again. Whether it is energy or law fragments, they all have the same effect. Yinuashing was stunned. The sea of consciousness is in me. Don't you know? The young man was also stunned. It is equivalent to the thoughts and thoughts of billions of living beings. The sea of consciousness. You have not been assimilated by it, so I thought you would know. Yinuashing shook his head hard. He did not know about this thing at all. He knew about the sea of consciousness in his body during the 139th era, but he did not encounter anything strange at that time. Therefore, he must have encountered it in the past and did not know when exactly. He did not expect to encounter these strange things at this time. The sins of the world, the sea of consciousness, had appeared in his body at this moment. He really did not know how to describe it. Seeing that he was also in a daze, the young man scratched his head. What a strange fellow. However, its state is very stable now. It is one with you. Moreover, you're in a state of absolute suppression, so you don't have to worry about being dissolved by the sea of consciousness. Oh, Yin Nuashing responded vaguely and looked up at the young man where his eyes should be. What is the chaos era? The young man slowly put down his crossed arms. The atmosphere became solemn as he did little by little. You know, it is in the first light. It is impossible not to know. Yin Nuashing sighed. To be honest, I did not expect that the light would seal such a complicated and troublesome thing, although I have not fully understood it. The young man heard him and turned to look at the starry sky. He said in a deep voice, based on what you know, how much do you know now? Perhaps I have only just learned a little. That is a story of another time. Yes, you only need to listen to it as a story. It will not affect the current era, nor will it affect the void at this time. Therefore, this matter does not need to be known by anyone. It only needs to be completely buried by time. The young man replied. Perhaps for the life of order at this moment, the beginning of everything is when the Yuan realm began to calculate the years. From what you know, it is 51 years ago. The young man turned around and stared into Yin Nuashing's eyes. The chaos era is the era that we experienced before that. It was an era that was deep in chaos for a long time. The Yuan realm was in absolute chaos. That was the initial state of chaos, the moment when the Yuan realm was truly created. Chaos occupied the entire space when the world was created. Order? No, at that time, there was no domain that could be called order. There was only a small place, curled up in a corner of the chaotic world, nurturing a part of life. We descended from that small place. What happened after that? You only need to understand it briefly. It's just like what you know, chaos and order were in an endless war. However, for us at that time, chaos was the normal state of the world, and order, we were the anomalies born in the void of the Yuan realm. In fact, there are two forms of the void, which is the current order and chaos. Chaos is the beginning and also the origin. Have you thought of something? Yin Nuashing was stunned. The origin of chaos? That is actually the initial state of order in the Yuan realm. However, it was a part that was cut off. Because it was a part that was separated from the group, it could show signs of evolving towards order. The young man nodded. The words that seemed to have a deeper meaning made Yin Nuashing frown. Separated from the group, because the composition of chaos and order was too high, so the void was unable to give birth to order. The origin of chaos that was reduced in composition changed from the chaos and order in the beginning to the appearance of the origin of chaos that you know now. Its chaos and order weakened, and half of it became blank. The chaos and order that was automatically diluted started to evolve in the direction of order. The young man sighed. That is the beginning of the era that you know now. That's right, this is the beginning of everything. It allowed us to know that order can exist in the void. Then, he shrugged helplessly and spread out his hands. You just need to know what happened after that. While we were reducing the composition of chaos, we allowed order to form a sufficient space. We slowly expanded it from the smallest independent state of chaos to the size of a planet, the size of a star system, and the size of a star system. After that, it took an unknown number of years before we finally had a territory of our own world. The power of order began to evolve, and living beings other than us began to appear, order beings. After that, it was the war between order and chaos that you're familiar with. After that, it was a cycle of events. Order fought against chaos. Chaos dealt a heavy blow to order. Order retreated. Order fought back. Order fought back. Order retreated. Order continued to charge. The entire chaos era lasted for a total of 326 years. Yin Nuashing could not help but spit out a mouthful of water. She looked at him blankly. How long did you say? 326 epochs exactly. The young man tilted his head and looked at her. He pondered for a moment. If you want to know the exact number of years after that, I really can't remember. It's too long ago. Yin Nuashing's cheeks trembled. That was a long time, really long time. The Yuan realm that they knew was only 51 epochs. They did not expect there to be a total of 326 epochs before the Yuan realm's history. The current history was only a little more than a fraction of the history of the Chaos era. Even if they counted 139 epochs, it was not even half of the history of the Yuan realm's entire Chaos era. I did not expect the history of the Yuan realm to be so long. He felt that his face was already cramping when he said that. By the way, the 326 epochs that you mentioned, did they start counting from the time you all appeared, or from a moment the Yuan realm truly began, which is also the moment we appeared, order and chaos had existed in the void at the same time from the very beginning? It's just that one is only a territory the size of a speck of dust, while the other sits on the endless void. Yin Nuashing, there's nothing much to say about the existence of the Chaos era. The young man shook his head. There's no need for everyone to know about it. If you hadn't exceeded all of our expectations and jumped into that light, we wouldn't have planned to tell you about it. Why? Yin Nuashing's face stiffened as soon as he said that subconsciously. If everyone knew that the Yuan realm's creation was actually the form of order, which was the supreme form of chaos. I know. I'm stupid. Yin Nuashing covered his face and smiled bitterly. If this truth were to spread, it would attract a bunch of lunatics who would commit suicide and join the Chaos era. Speaking of this, he remembered something. He lowered his head and pinched his hair as he murmured, "So, those Chaos concept bodies always say that chaos is supreme. Actually, it's because..." The young man scratched his head. "We've taken over their territory. Of course, they'll have resentment and want to take it back." Yin Nuashing slapped his own face. "All right, this is the truth of the Yuan realm's creation. This is the real truth. However, things have already developed to this extent. The void has basically become what it is now. Order and chaos coexist. It's very difficult for them to return the void to chaos. So, this is also the truth of the chaos void surrounding the order void. Well, it's more or less the same. Although both voids tend to be infinite. That's the case when the rules of order are limited and modified. Although the chaos void seems to be surrounding the order void." The young man nodded. Seeing Yin Nuashing's constantly pondering appearance, he suddenly said, "You seem to have a lot of questions?" Yin Nuashing nodded. He pulled his hair as he pondered. His eyes flickered as he glanced at the young man. The pseudo-birth of the world that we know about 51 years ago was actually a void reboot? Yes, because the big picture had been decided to solidify the existing order into a rule concept of the void. A large-scale reboot was needed. Yin Nuashing continued to ponder. Big picture. Don't tell me you're referring to the fact that order was almost finished at that time? Yes, the chaos concept body took the lead. In a situation where an encounter turned into a decisive battle, seeing that things were on the verge of going out of control, he had no choice but to plan ahead. What happened during the Chaos era, other than you and the Chaos concept body, no other life at that time survived. Therefore, you felt that there was no need for any life of the new era to know about that vast period of time. So you erased it? More or less. After the Void reboot, it was mostly burned. It was just a little bit of work to make it cleaner. There's another reason. After the Void reboot, the Grand Primordial Realm had completely changed. It was completely different from the Chaos era before. That is the new Grand Primordial Realm, a Grand Primordial Realm that we have to re-recognize. So the new era, which is the 51st era that we have recorded until now, the void of order that it is sitting on was originally the territory of order that was solidified in the void concept with you all as the core and all the life of order maintaining it. However, with your fall 11 years ago, a huge problem had arisen in this territory of order. The young man scratched his head. A problem with the world of order. Sigh, it's within our imagination, but this time we have no other choice. Yin Nuashing wanted to stomp her feet when she heard that. Those bastards are ready to fight back. I've already seen 2 or 3 chaos concept bodies. There's no need to worry. The young man suddenly laughed. What you see is not the real body. They won't be able to recover so easily. The world of order still has a long time. It's enough time for you all and everyone to be prepared. Yin Nuoxing's face turned purple when she heard that. The underworld was having internal strife. Those bastards were almost on the side of the chaos concept body. Moreover, the void principle was getting weaker and weaker in the future. How would they have the time to prepare? However, she really could not say for sure. She really could not say it. And even if she said it, it would not be of any use. She did not know what kind of expression she should show at this moment. Many of her guesses and ideas in the past had been overturned, and they were overturned ridiculously. After all, what she thought was not the truth. The truth that was revealed was like a stick that knocked her down. They really had an inseparable relationship with the void of order. There's always hope. The young man smiled and patted her on the shoulder. As long as the world of order still exists, there's always hope. Yin Nuoxing put down her distressed hands that were pulling her hair. She looked up at him and took a deep breath. Then I'll ask one last question. Go ahead. You guys blew up the Yuan realm into 8 pieces, right? Yes, deliberately arranged. If not, the concept of chaos would not be enough to form the order. The young man nodded. This is a crucial step. Yin Nuoxing smiled bitterly. All right. I have no more questions. I'm just a little disillusioned. Can I go now? It's time to save the world. He shrugged. You can go now. Just 6 minutes ago, I saw that your form had stabilized. But you have to go out to see the changes in yourself. Only your soul and consciousness are in this space. Yin Nuoxing let out a long sigh, waved his hand and said goodbye. Then we'll meet again. I'm leaving. See you later. Waving his hand to send off Yin Nuoxing, the young man continued to stare at the starry sky with his arms crossed. His eyes flickered. After the fusion of the primal chaos and that light, it's really quite exciting. The young man muttered to the desert. But his form is obviously unstable. If you want to help, you could just come out yourself. Why did you have to make me come out and show my face to divert his attention? The light gathered and condensed into a figure beside him. She also appeared in the starry sky. Looking at the place where Yin Nuoxing disappeared, she said faintly, I don't know what to say. He seems to be the same, so it's inconvenient. That's why I asked you to do it. The young man was stunned. He sighed and scratched his head. But is he something at the beginning of the Yuan realm? You really can't tell? She shook her head. Theoretically speaking, at the beginning of the Yuan realm, there's only us and them. There was no third party. They only appeared after that, slightly later than us. That's strange. The young man scratched his head. This child doesn't look like a normal person. It's his characteristics. There's no need to be surprised. She turned around and was about to disappear. The young man saw this and quickly called out to her. Hey, don't be in such a hurry. What should we do with this space? That light is gone. Should we keep it or... It doesn't matter. It's gone. We can just keep it. There shouldn't be any possibility of it being opened again. You can also leave something here. It might affect the future. There's nothing to leave. Forget it. I'll just leave it here. I'm too lazy to destroy it. Chapter 1685. Floating up and down with the flow of the water, his consciousness was returning from the bottomless abyss. When he dived down, he was filled with determination and determination. When he came back, his emotions were as messy as the ocean in a storm. The pitiful leaf floating on the surface of the sea was whipped back and forth by the waves countless times, but there was no way for it to escape. As he quietly opened his eyes, the sound of the waves and bubbles reverberating in his mind all faded away, and the world returned to tranquility. Birds flew across the sky, and a few birds that looked like sparrows flew around him. They even used his long hair to weave half a vague bird's nest. He didn't know how long he had been lying here as a scarecrow before he could become a bird's nest. He waved his hand to chase away all the birds that were playing around on his head. They only flapped their wings and circled around him before landing on his shoulder to look around. However, when he stood up, they dispersed in a hubbub. The observer space that was left behind when he entered had disappeared, and the teleportation gate that was cast by the origin rune had also returned to the conceptual layer of the rules. That space. It was probably useless there. It was just a space that stored a deadly thing. As that thing disappeared, it would probably cease to exist as well. The aura of the primal chaos has disappeared. Yin Nuashing muttered to himself. It had evolved from a cornerstone to the end. It had completely shed its previous form and fused with the soul, becoming a part of the body. It was difficult to find any trace of independence. As for the primal chaos origin light, that thing had passed through his body once, and then fused with the primal chaos to become. He didn't know what it had become, but it had melted into his soul. As for his current state, it was hard to say. He felt that everything was strange. His appearance didn't change much. He didn't become strange. His life form was still an energy life form. As for what kind of energy the energy here was, this part of him had become strange. If he wanted to pursue it, he could probably pluck it out from the void and form his own category. That's not right. He's a master of his own. It's better not to look into these details. His long, colorful hair was still glowing faintly. There was no change to his appearance, height, and arm length. These things should not have changed anyway. After a hard check, he finally found something different. His eyes were now golden, and there were no other changes. There were no strange things growing on his body, and there were no markings on his face. After all, they were part of his body, and there would not be any strange extra products. Unlike the origin energy and the origin law, those things had innumerable tattoos on his body that had yet to be cleaned up. As for the more specific changes, he would only know after a fight. Foam! The sound from afar made Yin Nuashing slowly open her eyes. A substantial light flashed in her eyes. Yin Nuashing turned her head, but she didn't see anyone. Her voice suddenly turned into a cry of horror. What the F***CK? I didn't do anything this time. Don't be so agitated. Let's talk nicely. Yin Nuashing was stunned. When she found Feng Luo, she saw a guardian descending from the sky with a golden light. Feng Luo was holding a guardian shield that was the size of a city gate and facing her as if he was facing a great enemy. Feng Luo hid behind and shouted blindly, "Let's talk nicely. Don't hit my face." Yin Nuashing, ? Hui Jun, calm down. Jing Yin smiled bitterly and then landed. She leaned in front of Yin Nuashing and looked at him. She frowned suspiciously. Are you Feng Luo? Yin Nuashing tilted her head. What's strange about him? Hui Jun didn't feel anything and heaved a sigh of relief. He put away the big shield and walked over. He stared at Feng Luo from head to toe and reached out to poke his arm. Everything is strange. If it wasn't for the fact that your soul is still the same and your appearance is still the same, I would have thought that you were a different person. Also, your body is full of energy. I thought that you were going to hit me. I didn't provoke you. The structure and rules have all changed. Jingyan pressed on Yin Nuashing's body a few times and nodded. Body shape, laws, and order have all been changed, including all the energy imprints. If it was someone unfamiliar, they wouldn't be able to recognize it. As for the aura, it's always in a state of resonance with laws and order. No wonder Hui Jun said that you were angry and wanted to beat him up. Just one look at this posture, and I feel that something is wrong. It's a bit like your order, rules, and energy form, and it's definitely not much different from that time. Hui Jun grinned hard. He hadn't brought the origin energy yet. He didn't know what would happen if he brought the origin energy along with it. Forget it. He couldn't imagine what would happen, but it could still hang him in the void and beat him up. Is it? Yin Nuashing continued to tilt her head and blink. I don't feel anything, although I feel that my body is a little strange. But maybe my body itself has become strange, so I can't determine what's wrong with me. I'll self-examine when the time comes. Let's not talk about this. Are you guys done? I feel that you guys have brought something strange over. Yin Nuashing waved her hand and looked to the side. Siyu and Feng Qinghuang saw that she was looking at them and quickly came forward. Feng Qinghuang carefully placed the thing in her arms in front of her. It was tired from playing and fell asleep halfway. Yin Nuashing stared at the blue light and couldn't help but be startled. A young consciousness? The consciousness of the realm of the gods. Hui Jun, who was about to speak with a smug face, was stunned. No, can't you pretend that you don't know and let me explain? Yin Nuashing scratched her head awkwardly. Based on the vision of the observer, I can basically tell at a glance, and he had already seen it once. It seems that this little brother's knowledge is complementary to Hui Jun's. What he knows, you don't know. What you don't know, he might know. But this kind of half-and-half split, what's going on? TSK, it feels weird. Tisk, let's not talk about this. Hui Jun grinned and pointed at the ball in Feng's hand. The owner is tired from playing and is sleeping. Even if we want to know, we won't be able to find out. By the way, Feng, let me tell you something that you definitely don't know. Yin Nuashing put the ball in Feng Qinghuang's hand and threw a glance at him. Go ahead. The matter related to the heart of the world and the two priesthoods was not complicated, but it made Yin Nuashing stare blankly for a while. Seeing his stunned expression, we finally got what he wanted and laughed sinisterly. See, I know you definitely don't know about this. You can't know everything, right? Yin Nuashing laughed dryly. How can I really know everything? Do you think I'm like the god of origin and the others? When I say I know everything, I'm just bragging. Don't take it seriously. The two divine positions are based on the heart of the world of the gods. I'm just at the stage of drafting a guess. I haven't looked into it for a long time because I felt that I couldn't deduce anything further. I didn't expect it to be true. Yin Nuashing whispered as he twirled a strand of hair. When he was done, he looked up at them and said, Speaking of which, I also know something else. Hui Jun and the others subconsciously turned their heads. Feng Qinghuang, and see you were already used to this kind of storytelling tone. They quickly put on a respectful expression and said, Yes, yes. Go ahead. We're ready. Have you heard of the Chaos Era? Everyone was stunned. This time, even Jingyan was no exception. But this little bit of content, well, it might be shocking, but it's too far away after all. It won't affect you much. Just treat it as a story. The main thing is that I'm overwhelmed with emotions right now. I can't calm down if I don't find someone to talk to. As Yin Nuashing spoke, he smiled bitterly. His brain was about to explode from holding back such a secret. He immediately picked the main points and told Yin Nuashing about the history of the realm of the gods that the origin heavenly god had told him. But after all, he had only heard it from someone else and then repeated it. He definitely didn't know what happened in the middle very well, and there was no way for him to make any changes. Therefore, he could only repeat it exactly as he heard it. Even if he wanted to save time by talking through the soul transmission, it still took him a few minutes to finish talking about the things that made his scalp tingle. He hurriedly wiped his sweat and said, That's what the heavenly origin god told me. Hui Jun immediately put on a completely shocked expression. What the hell? There's such a thing? The history of the god realm needs to be updated. If we add 326 years before, doesn't that make it 377 years now? Jing Yun's eyes widened, but she recovered after a few seconds. After all, she was a person who had seen the god of origin in that era. Her nerves were so thick that she was used to being shocked by something to the point of numbness. Like many others, she was also shocked by the things related to the god of origin. So she was the first to adapt. But the impact was indeed huge. There's no need to update the history of this history. Jingyan shook her head and said while stroking her chin, Since the god of origin said that it's a history that should be forgotten and not recorded, then there's no need to record it. The records that happened before should only exist with the god of origin and the others. Oh, it's still with my little brother. And us. Only we know about it. There's no need to tell anyone about it. Hui Jun recovered from his shock and said, That's true. These things... No, we haven't even sorted out the mess that belongs to our era. How would we have the time to care about the history of the past, the chaos era, and whatnot? Anyway, we don't have access to those things. In short, the story is a good story, but it's not a story that belongs to us. That's the story of the god of origin and the others. It's another epic war that happened in the midst of storm. It has little to do with us, and there's no way for us to learn anything from it. See, you held her head and shook her head. She couldn't help but smile bitterly. My view of the world has been updated too much today. I can't quite get over it. Feng Qing Wang and Xing LV nodded in agreement. Agreed. Today was a disaster. When the three of them gathered together to refresh the information, it was like they were talking nonsense. No matter what, they couldn't understand. Although it hadn't been long, the two groups of people had gone to two different places and came into contact with things that they wouldn't have come into contact with on a normal day. After exchanging information, they each sighed, sorted out their thoughts, and then it's time to return to the right path. Hui coughed dryly and looked at Jing Yun. Jing Yun said that she wants to use the consciousness of the realm of gods to adjust the state of the world core. The tide of chaos might have affected the world core of gods. If we can adjust it and strengthen the strength of the laws, the time for the next Yuanshi to be born should be much shorter. Yin Nuoxing crossed her arms. You want to go to the space of consciousness? Huiging opened his mouth and was stunned. What? Where's that? The space of consciousness, the place where the world core of gods is placed. It's hidden deep in the conceptual layer of the laws. It's a special space that can only be accessed through the observer dimension. Well, although the name sounds like it's a place where the consciousness should be, it's not. Yin Nuoxing looked up at the sky. I've been there a few times. It's a routine check. The realm of gods has been through so many large-scale battles that it's necessary to check it out. However, the world core hasn't responded. I don't know if something has happened to it or not, and I don't know how it will be affected by the tide of chaos. Then let's go. We'll take a look and check it out. Yin Nuoxing stomped her foot. A circle of darkness suddenly spread out from the ground and enveloped all of them. They disappeared in an instant. The dark observer dimension. They were just passing by. So you couldn't help but say when she saw the dark place. It's just like when we passed through Lord Huey's dimension. I don't remember it being like this when we came to the observer dimension. You were going to my dimension that time. This time we're just passing by. The darkness outside is the conceptual layer of the laws. It's normal for it to be dark. Ah, I still remember that. See, you smiled and went over to hold Yin Nuoxing's arm. It's only the first day, and you're bringing me to the conceptual layer of the laws. I'm so scared that I'm not in good spirits the whole day. Not in good spirits? Yin Nuoxing silently looked at this girl who was almost as energetic as Hui. He rolled his eyes at the sky. He had never seen this girl in a bad mood before. The laws of the god world, the degree of weakening. There are traces of the influence of the chaos tide. It has been confirmed that the conceptual layer of the laws is affected by the chaos tide. Now, all that's left is to confirm the heart of the world. Jing Yin stared at the space outside. Silver light flashed in her eyes as she spied on the conceptual layer of the laws of the god world. Hui Jun, your passage can't be seen so clearly. Wait, do you have to say it out loud? Jing Yin grimaced. The difference between your two functions is too big. Hui was angry. This thing wasn't something he could choose. It was something the heart of the world casually put on him. However, thinking about it carefully, if he took on Maple's observer role, TSK, forget it. If he needed to use his brain, he'd leave it to Maple. He couldn't play with it. This was his nature. It had nothing to do with the two godhoods. Yin Nuoxing was stunned for a moment. He looked around in confusion. He stared at Huey's bright face and frowned. Why do I feel like, the space of consciousness was hidden in the depths of the conceptual layer of the laws of the god world. Compared to the human body, it was actually the heart of the god world. Well, it was also possible to call it the soul. This place was sealed by the power of countless laws and order. Even if an enemy broke into the conceptual layer of the laws and took down the god world, there was no way they could enter this space of consciousness. Even the god world, there were only two people who could enter. That's right, we could also enter, but that guy didn't use his brain every day. If the two godhoods originate from the heart of the world, many things can be explained clearly. For example, the two of us can move around in many places in the conceptual layer of the laws that normal people can't touch. For example, the observer space and the guardian space that existed long ago, and the way to enter the space of consciousness. I should have thought of it. God knows why I didn't insist on deducing it and just ignored it. Yin Nuashing paused and looked around. With a wave of her hand, she inscribed an energy rune in the space before her. After a few flashes of energy, the rune split into 12 parts and floated in 12 corners. Then, countless energy lines suddenly weaved between the 12 parts, weaving them into another huge rune. After the rune was formed, the conceptual layer of the laws shook a few times. A few energy ripples spread and finally turned into a stable door. The door in the conceptual layer of the laws was made of bronze. It was cold as if it had been frozen in the southern ice realm for millions of years and was still emanating cold air. With a heavy sound, the door was pushed open. A dark and deep corridor appeared inside. The material of the corridor seemed to be made of bronze. Cold air filled the air, and the darkness was so deep that it made people uncomfortable. Is the space of consciousness so dark? Hui stared at the darkness before him and glared at Yin Nuashing. You didn't open the wrong door, did you? No, I didn't. Yin Nuashing sighed. The appearance of the space of consciousness is not fixed. Whether it's the door or the corridor, it may be made of bronze now. Next time, it may be made of wood or other metals. It may even be made of ice or solidified water. But no matter what it is made of, this corridor is dark. The consciousness that has entered a deep slumber is probably what it means on the surface. Yin Nuashing paused for a moment and smiled bitterly. I have been hesitating here for an hour. It's too dark. Hui was speechless. He forgot that Maple was actually a little afraid of the dark. He did not know how he had mustered up the courage to walk in. Could it be that he had activated his explosive aura and charged in? This presence. Well, friends, I've got the information I want. Yin Nuashing took 2 deep breaths at the corridor between the space of consciousness and spread her hands exaggeratedly. She smiled bitterly. I'm now completely sure that the remnants of the tide of chaos are reverberating in the space of consciousness, and the presence is not weak. From the looks of it, even the heart of the world would not be able to avoid it. Sigh, I knew it. The void is always making me worry. Yin Nuashing sighed and shook her head. She waved her hand and held up a colorful energy barrier around her. Stay close. The energy between the space of consciousness is very sensitive. Usually, no one is allowed to set foot in it. Don't leave the range of the barrier. Feng Qingwang heard her and also moved to Yin Nuashing's side. She and Siyu squeezed to the left and right of Yin Nuashing. Huey's eyes were glowing. He could not help but say, I've already said that. Ignoring the mutterings of a certain guardian, he propped up an identification barrier with a large amount of energy and led the others through the door in front of him into another domain. The door closed with a click, and the moment the bronze door closed, everyone immediately felt an unusual presence. The presence of the Order of Chaos. Huey's expression suddenly became serious. Maple, are you sure the space of consciousness is like this? Of course. Yin Nuashing rolled her eyes. That's impossible. When was the last time I was here? Millions of years? No, we have been fighting in the void for hundreds of millions of years. If we count those hundreds of millions of years, and if we count the time when I was sleepy and forgot to come here, I haven't been here for about 2 billion years. Everyone was speechless. She was so sleepy that she forgot to check on the heart of the world. She did not even know the presence of the Order of Chaos was here. These 2 priesthoods were more reliable than the other, because nothing has happened all this time. Yin Nuashing laughed dryly. She could only laugh dryly now. I have checked for several eras. Every time I came here to patrol, I would put a everything is normal stamp on it. I would sign in, check in, and do nothing else. So why did something happen in the last 2 billion years? Jingyan said with a fake smile. The realm of gods is really lucky to be alive. It's fine. It's tougher than us. Hui waved his hand nonchalantly as he raised his own barrier and strode forward. Even when the sky collapsed and flattened the void, the divine realm is still intact. I don't believe that this weak presence of chaos without any follow-up support can do anything. It can't even be considered as a form of energy. Now die. Hui roared, and a sacred energy storm suddenly erupted from his body, turning into a powerful golden light that dispelled the darkness. The presence that made everyone feel as if the world had been turned upside down instantly dissipated. Yin Nuashing was not too worried. After all, it was 139 eras. Asterisk cough cough asterisk, however, she still had to deal with it now. I'm not worried about the realm of gods. I just want to know where this presence of chaos came from. He then looked at Jingyan. Will the places affected by the tide of chaos leave some kind of energy mark that will turn into energy in the future? Jingyan followed closely behind the barrier. She scratched her chin and said, "Well, it's hard to say. At least from what we've seen so far, it's not. But I don't know if there will be a change when they affect a certain part of the void. Chaos energy, after all, is the most prone to other strange phenomena when it collides with order." Yin Nuashing frowned and turned to look ahead. The deep and dark bronze corridor was spacious and impossible to explore. Huey's sacred storm could not dispel the darkness here. He kept staring at the depths. Although he had walked through this corridor countless times, this time he felt a sense of unfamiliarity that could not be erased. The presence of chaos that permeated this place gave him a bad feeling. Hui, who was clearing the way with Le Zhongyu, suddenly stopped and turned to Maple and the others with a smile. "Maple, I think there might be—" Everyone turned pale with fright. "Shut up." Yin Nuashing was one step ahead of the others. She slapped Hui on the ground. "You piece of shit. Open the way and shut up. Are you trying to set off fireworks in the realm of the gods?" Hui laughed dryly and shrunk his neck. "I actually wanted to say that it might not be that bad inside." Yin Nuashing, well, I didn't hold him down. Fortunately, he didn't say anything too serious this time. Maybe there's something wrong with the heart of the world. It's just that the presence of chaos has spread here. It's not a big problem. Hui laughed. Jingyan slapped her forehead and looked like she had nothing left to live for. "It's over. Bro, get ready to save us." Xing LV also sighed with a pale face. As everyone knew, the two divine roles in the realm of the gods were the number one ass in the void and the number one prophet in the void. When the two of them walked together, the effect would be infinite. One fanned the flames while the other fanned the flames. Even if nothing happened, something would happen. Now that he said it out loud, then this Xing LV thought for a moment and put his hands together. I hope the realm of the gods is fine, that you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.